Welcome to All Brick Road. I'm Jordan, and today we're gonna watch portions of the Dave Smith versus who the fuck is Coleman Hughes, whatever, the Free Press apparently, and conversations with Coleman. Crash. Anyways, before I get started, do not forget to share, support, hopefully donate to all the links in the description box. Check them out, read them, share them, then donate. All of it is very much appreciated. Also, please check out the Discord link. I'm in that Discord right now. So if you want to join that, please go ahead. All opinions are welcome, even dumb fucks like Barry Weiss. Uh, and obviously, I will source the video if you're a Dave Smith dick rider and you're like, Jordan, shut up, Dave's talking. If you're like that, don't worry. There's a non-Jordan, non-YellBro Discord talking over the video or pausing it version in the description box. So please take advantage of that. So telling me in the fucking comments, come on, man, stop talking on your own channel, please. Stop talking on your reaction channel about. Stop reacting on your reaction channel, bro. Stop it. Fucking bitches. All links in the description box. All right, so thankfully there are timestamps for all this stuff, and I'm gonna just pick out particular topics because I'm actually more curious about what Dave will say. I'm pretty sure I don't know this person, but I can almost guess where this guy's gonna go. It's probably small dick territory. But I'm a little bit curious about Dave receiving pushback that isn't dumb fuck Douglas Murray, the fancy lad from England, Douglas Murray. So I'm curious. And the first topic we're going to go over is anti-war philosophy. Where are the limits? Here we go. Oh, also, please, in the comment section, if I miss a portion that you care to hear, please let me know. And maybe I do a video on it. But that will definitely depend on what I hear throughout the couple topics we cover here. But either way, whatever. Here we go. Here's Dave Smith versus Coleman fucking Hughes. Here we go.
It doesn't, it's not a one-to-one correlation. Obviously, all of these economies are complicated, but it does undermine the idea that the military is the difference between Western Europe spending 1.5 of GDP on their military and America spending 4% of GDP on our military is showing up at the grocery store in any way that a person could actually detect.
No, again, that's
Bring up
just
money
not
already.
right. I mean, it's not the case that like if you're getting drunk and getting behind the wheel of your car and you go, oh, but my neighbor's shooting up heroin and getting behind the wheel of his car, and it seems like we have the same outcome.
Why do we have the same long-run inflation rates as all
Because
these
they have
European countries that don't have empires?
Typically speaking, they've embraced more generous welfare states than we have. They have big government of a different variety, and that also requires money printing. And we also kind of act, at least to some degree, in uniform. I mean, the central banks of Europe and the United States of America do, coordinate quite a bit together. But yes, you're right. It is absolutely the case that America has embraced more of the militaristic big government, whereas the European countries have embraced more
and even in the case of America,
sorry to pause from there, but I've heard a state official named Wilbur Ross, I think he was like the economic guy for Trump's first administration, bring up like point something of the GDP, but it was like actually 500,000 people being like losing their jobs. He's like, oh, it's only like point something of the GDP, point something percent of the GDP. I forgot what it was. I think it was like 0.03 or 0.08 or something like that. It's only that much. Like, that's hundreds of thousands of people. So that is a big deal. If you're human, if you have a fucking pulse. So I don't give it, like, once again, fuck these numbers, bro. I don't care about the numbers, the percentages. Tell me what's happening directly. And are you okay with that morally? At the same time, I don't argue foreign policy through fucking money. To me, that's stupid. It's I don't know. It's like I want to like pull them aside, like, hey, man, you're gonna die one day. We're all gonna die one day. What do those numbers mean now? It's like there's no knowledge of that being like it's just not there. Instead, we're worried about like GDP numbers and shit like that. Either way, here we go. I'm sorry I'm ruining your entertainment. Let's keep playing. Here we go.
Absolutely the case that America has embraced more of the militaristic big government, whereas the European countries have embraced more
and even in the case of
social safety
America,
nets.
our spending is 1 part military, 3, 4, 5 part welfare states. So
100%.
So it's okay,
Yeah, they're all huge. They're all huge drivers of this. But like, look, and I'm as against the welfare state as anybody you've ever talked to, Coleman. Like, I can assure you that. But there is a difference between paying for grandma's hip surgery.
Like, we could reduce military spending to 0 tomorrow, and we would still every year be increasing the debt to GDP ratio in this country. So to me, the idea of focusing on it is like a firefly to the sun. If we're talking about issues like inflation and the debt.
No, I mean, look, it's not a firefly to the sun. I mean, yes.
I'm exaggerating slightly.
No, but not even slightly. No, it is.
To the sun.
I mean, it's kind of like a third of the sun to the sun. So yes, there are other sections that the entitlement programs are slightly bigger, but that's it. After that, it's I guess interest on the debt now might be.
I'll be honest, guys, I don't give a fuck about
money. Then it's the military.
Okay,
we've spent something like $20 trillion since the collapse of the Soviet Union. And that's a huge driver of the $37 trillion. But you are absolutely right that with the
it sounds huge when you don't include the biggest GDP in the world in the denominator.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a lot of money for the government to be spending, which is currently $37 trillion in debt. It's not the GDP isn't spending money on defense, right? It's not. It's the government spending this, and they do not bring in enough money. The spending numbers
only have meaning in comparison to the denominator.
No, I don't know if
it's true. Okay, so do you want to move off this? Do you want the last word?
Yeah, move off this.
Ahead. Let's move off this. Okay,
yeah, move off this.
So I'm curious. Do you support?
You fucking robot.
I don't think I've ever heard an example of a military intervention that you support. And I'm curious, in your anti-war philosophy, I know that you're okay with, if for some reason Mexico invaded us, you'd be okay with us pushing them out. You're not. Sure. Everyone supports a purely defensive war.
Yes, absolutely.
So is that the limit of the wars that you support, or is there any war in the past 100 years that America has fought that was not, or let me just say, any military intervention that was not purely
World War II
that you support?
No, I mean,
defensive. Or let me just say, any military intervention that was not purely defensive that you support.
No, I mean, I think in American history, right, the Revolution and the War of 1812 were purely defensive
100 years,
wars.
he said, though.
And that's, leaving aside any of the stuff about how conspiratorial the founding fathers were about what the British were about to do, none of that really matters to me. They sent an invading army, and I think people have a right to declare their independence, so that's a legitimate war. In terms of a war that I could support, I can't think of an example of one. I think that there's, like, if you're, I like, just talking in theory here, right? I do think that if you're attacked and if you have reason to believe that you can't stop attacks from continuing to come, and that the only way to save your people is to, God forbid, kill some innocent people on the other side, I could see there being a horrible consequentialist argument for it. But I don't, I don't support any of the wars that America's been in my lifetime, for sure.
Okay, so
Now, once again, I am full scale against war in any form or fashion. That's Jordan. Not everyone believes that. I understand. But where there's an area where you might agree with Jordan is the way it's carried out. As in, okay, let's say Pearl Harbor, right? Japan attacks America in this crazy ass fucking thing, right? Allegedly, like kamikaze shit, right? And let's say, you know what, we got to get them back for that, because otherwise they're going to keep doing it. Let's go get them. But if you realize what the ending of our war with Japan was, it ended in fucking nukes. And mostly hurting innocent civilians, for the most part. So, once again, maybe you're in favor of defense, using military in a form of defense, but that can't be called defense at that point, right? That's something different. And for some reason, on repeat, it's always these devil worshipping cunts that decide, the course of action against someone else, whether you want to call it defense or not. And I would hope even people that are like, I love my guns, I love my country, I love my military. If you're like that, you're kind of hardcore in that direction. There's no way nukes is like an option for you, right? Like that shouldn't be an option. Or H-bombs, or whatever you want to call them. Like, I think you can come up with a better way to end that situation. And I mean that seriously. I think the Little League dad down the street can handle the ending of war with Japan in a lot more healthy of a way. Although I think war itself is just, physical combo, combatants on the ground shooting guns or samurai swords, whatever the fuck they're doing on the field. That's clearly unhealthy. But there's no way you can make an art. Like I can maybe make some sense of someone saying like, yeah, that's justifiable because of the scenario. But in which scenario do you drop H-bombs and kill 100,000 people in one shot? There's no way to justify that one, right? So I think people need to start actually looking at less so whether they're for or against a particular war. It's like, how are these guys waging it on either side? And would you be okay with that? I think that's more of the question. But don't worry, we're here to subvert things. Here we go. Here's more of Dave and Fuckface. Here we go.
Well, I can give you two examples.
Sorry, my bad. I don't know this guy. I'm not going to call him Fuckface. I'm going to call him a robot, though. Dave and the robot. Here we go.
America's been in my lifetime for sure.
Okay, so I can give you two examples of wars I definitely support. One is Korea. If we hadn't intervened in Korea, there would be no South Korea. It would be the whole peninsula would be ruled by the Kim family, and every humanitarian consequence that's come as a result of that in the past 70 years, including all the famines and the repression and the purges. And so to me, it's easy to make a consequentialist argument that our intervention in Korea, though it did increase deaths from what would have resulted, was in the long run a good choice. And then,
is that the only way to create South Korea and have a sense of freedom for some people? Is that the option you go to? And I'm sure his answer would be like, well, that's the option they got to go to. So then we got to answer him. And at the same time, somewhere in North Korea, they're like, that's their option. So we got to meet them at that point. Otherwise, we can't have North Korea. Saying logically, but all right, here we go. Who cares? Right.
What would have resulted was in the long run a good choice. And then I can also easily support the military intervention in Liberia in 2003, where this country has been at civil war, hundreds of thousands of deaths, people slaughtering each other left and right for 12 years. Clinton does nothing. George Bush shows up, sends 2,000 Marines. Within a week, the Civil War is done, and the country's been at peace for 20 years, and they fly American flags there. And these seem to me both examples where your philosophy of war would not allow us to go do things like that, whereas mine would.
Yeah, so I guess like the Liberia one certainly did work out fairly well. Korea, I don't honestly.
You support Liberia?
No, I said it worked out fairly well.
But you don't support it, even though it worked out well.
This is the point that I'm getting to, right? Is that so? No, I wouldn't have supported the policy, but it did work out a lot better than the other catastrophes. But if you want to sit here and say that like my philosophy wouldn't allow Liberia to have happened, like, okay, fair enough. But your philosophy won't prevent Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, Somalia, and Yemen. And I'll take that trade.
I wouldn't say my philosophy is pro-Iraq. I wasn't pro the Iraq War.
No, it's not a matter, but you're saying my philosophy of not getting into these entanglements will not allow us to have the success of Liberia.
That's correct, right?
So then, right, yes, sure. But then the flip side of that
No, it's
is
not.
that then you also have to credit that my philosophy would not allow the catastrophes that I just rattled off.
So it's a trade-off.
Forget
It's a
your
trade-off.
point.
Your philosophy is, as every philosophy
Everything is trade-offs. Yeah, everything in life is trade-offs, sure. But
I'm sorry, but that's the same logic as, well, if we didn't have slavery, you wouldn't be in this country. You wouldn't be doing this podcast right now. Your family members. The same logic. Isn't it? The same fucking logic. Well, it worked out well. In a vacuum. By your standards. And also, once again, I'm ignorant of the scenario, but the way he sounds like he's arguing, like you might as well make an argument for slavery. Say, well, it worked out. See, look. We got Michael Jordan. You got me. You got this guy. You got that guy. That lady. Harriet Tubman would have never been famous unless there was slavery. Think about it. Same fucking logic to me. Hey guys, I understand why people go to war and do all these things with entanglements and fucking battles and wars and all that shit. I understand why people might do that. At least regular people, right? I understand. But to call it healthy or something positive happened, you're a fucking idiot. YellBro's the best. Fuck. Never works. Go ahead, Jesse.
This guy's interesting. Like the way he's doing his
This robot, yeah.
like he's trying to present these two. They're like tests, really. He's actually testing him, and he's trying to just pry the door open just a little bit.
He's trying to win.
But
I know.
yeah, it's really to be okay with any war, really. Like that's really the whole point of his doing these like border cases. He's not.
I think it's.
I don't think he's authentic.
Oh, me neither. I think you're for sure on the surface, right? But I think more likely it's to take Dave Smith down a peg. It's to win, I think, and thus you put up certain logical scenarios to create kind of like a complication that Dave now has to negotiate for the rest of these 3 fucking hours. So he can't contradict himself at any point. Otherwise, this guy will be like, well, back then at the 45-minute mark, you said this, Dave. Gotcha. Right? That's what it smells like to me. But either way, it's like, I personally would rip that fucking question out of the air and say, like, sure, I understand why people do what they do in regards to these scenarios, but is that a healthy world to you? Is that okay? Where's the win in regards to that? There's people slaughtering each other. Someone comes in to threaten slaughtering everyone else. Like, hey, guys, if you guys keep fighting, I'm going to slaughter all of you. That's your win? Actually? To me, that's fucking psychopathic and pathological and dumb. It's begging for a continuation of the same shit we've been seeing forever. It's begging for that. Because you got to win. See, look. Things got better because the military went in, see? Isn't that claiming that is the solution to certain situations? Thus, what does that mean? It means we need that situation from here on to infinity. And I'm sure he's going to have the arguments about human nature. I'm sure that's going to be the case. And it's like, so you mean we need war 24, like we have to be in war mode 24/7. And then Jordan waits for aliens and Jesus to show up. Or Buddha. Or Muhammad. You know, whoever wants it. The super team. Want to show up? Good. There you do. Anyways, let's continue.
Like, yes,
but that's a deep insight. That's a deep insight. I mean, that's not
Of
something
course,
to
yeah,
gloss
yeah.
over. It's
Yeah,
a trade-off. It's a trade-off in human lives on both sides.
100%. But well, yes, it's a trade-off. I suppose yes, it can be. Everything is a trade-off. But also the thing is that giving the government power to do something is not, something that you can then always have control over than how it's going to be used. And so, yes, in a sense, it is a trade-off, like everything in life is trade-offs. But I think the trade-off is way on my side. If you're saying that, like, of the last, 19 military interventions, we got 2 who didn't turn out to be complete catastrophes. That's like, oh yeah, I would still rather err on the side of the trade-off that didn't allow for all of the catastrophes to happen.
I would say there are more than 2. You could probably add the NATO bombing in the 1990s, and you could probably add getting Saddam out of Kuwait.
Which NATO bombing in the 1990s? Serbia you're talking about?
Oh
Both,
my God.
95 and 99.
He gave him prying the door open.
Yeah, he is. And he just gave him the Jimmy Dore, babies in incubators. he just handed Dave Smith that. But I don't know if Dave has heard of that story that Jimmy's said 2 million different times. Here we go. Let's find out.
NATO bombing in the 1990s, and you could probably add getting Saddam out of Kuwait.
Which NATO bombing in the 1990s? Serbia you're talking about?
Both, 95 and 99.
Oh, well, all right. I mean, those
are more. I'll grant you, those are more arguable cases. Those aren't shut and dry like.
You could just say, I don't know what that is, Dave.
I think honestly, I know a lot more. I know more about
experts would argue that we halted a genocide in progress. And that's
no expert has any evidence that we halted a genocide in progress.
Expert?
This is what they said. This is what they said leading into the war, right? Bill Clinton said that like 100,000 people or something like that had already been killed, and the FBI went over there and investigated afterward, and they just didn't find anything to back up those claims. And Milosevic had absolutely committed war crimes, and he had killed some soldiers and he had done some bad things, and there were people who got massacred, but even he never even got convicted of the genocide charge in the International Criminal Court. He got convicted of war crimes and I think some other lesser charge. But no, I think that thing was sold on lies, just like all the other wars of my lifetime have been.
Okay, so I want to talk to you a little bit more about your anti-war philosophy, because I've heard.
That's just funny. Like, it's like, well, like Dave. Once again, I don't even know that story as well. I've heard of the Clinton Serbia bombing and the medicine factories, all that shit, right? But it's like Dave gives his point, and this guy's like, yeah, okay. Anyways, just moves on. Like, because the point is not to win the point is not to stay with these certain points. I think more so the point is to win the optics of the argument or something like that. So you have to remain calm, say things like this, and keep it moving, because my job is on the line. This fucking bot, bro. Someone's going to fall for this. 5'3" bot. All right, here we go.
One of the arguments on the other side of you is that the world is basically a competition of great powers, or if not great powers, then regional powers. And if America were to adopt your favorite stance of isolationism and purely defensive wars, we're not fighting a war until there's a bomb dropped, on American soil, and then we're going to fight a purely defensive war to eliminate the threat, and that's it. What would happen is all of the other powers in the world, from Russia to China to Iran, would simply fill in the void, right? And so you have examples like, we pull our military bases out of the Philippines, and it's not 2 years before China has created an artificial island and plopped a military base right off the coast of the Philippines. And then there's the additional point, which I want to get your response to, which is that we field many critiques of our military-industrial complex. The fact that we have this revolving door where you can predict with coin flip accuracy that the current Secretary of Defense is going to end up at a weapons company in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And there's a revolving door. And in the aggregate, it wouldn't require a genius in human psychology to think that perhaps this pushes the whole system to be a little more war-happy than it otherwise would. And I think I would probably disagree with you. I think I would certainly disagree with you about the power of that effect. But what would you say to the critique that Russia and China also have their own military-industrial complexes, It's not even a revolving door in the case of Russia because they're in the same room. It's like the 49% owner of Kalashnikov became the deputy secretary of defense in 2018 in Russia. And he didn't even have to get rid of his shares in Kalashnikov, right?
Yeah.
So they're not revolving in and out. They're just in the same room. They're the same people. In China, it all works through bribery because everything is state-owned, but they've had massive bribery scandals in the past 10 years where the weapons companies are bribing the people that decide whether to get
pseudo-intellectualism.
to secure their contracts, to give them higher prices, who are bribing the people above them to make decisions that redound to the benefit of ultimately financial motives. So if America pulls back from the world, what is to stop the military-industrial complexes of all the other countries in the world from simply filling the space now that they're
Okay. Oh, sorry.
undeterred?
Okay, now that they're undeterred. I love this pseudo-intellectual. He's basically doing a repeat of like trolley car, the thing we saw Timmy do, right? They're doing he's doing a repeat of that trolley car thought experiment on repeat with these topics and the way he's asking them. And it's like, with the pseudo-intellectualism that this guy's doing, dumb guy logic always wins over pseudo-intellectualism every fucking time. But hey, man, let's be as dumb but also scientific as possible. How do we know they're not behaving a certain way because we're doing something? How do you know that? How would you figure that out? If maybe they feel threatened. Not saying this is the case, by the way. This is not in favor of China or Russia or any other nation, Iran, whoever. This is me saying, like, just using dumb guy logic. Hey, are you guys threatened by us? That's why you're maybe beefing up your military or beefing up your spending or you're beefing up your expansion into other territories and strategical geopolitical positions. Is that why that's happening? Now, me personally, I wouldn't just ask the question. I'd do the fucking deed. I'd be like, all right, guys, in these army bases, yeah, we're not doing that anymore. Come back home. If they start moving around, then the little fuck faces like this robotic dweeb over here on the left, he can tell me, like, oh, see, look, Russia was always like this. We always knew it. They were always the real bad guys, and we had to be bigger, badder guys to deal with them. I personally wouldn't say fair enough, but I'm sure others would. But guess what? Are we going to find out because of pseudo-intellectual threats that this guy says on a YouTube fucking channel? And guess what? It's going to work on plenty of people, by the way. That logic will work on plenty of fucking people. It will. Where they're like, oh, fuck, if we take down this army base, if we get rid of nukes, if we don't aim our guns this direction, the other guys are going to just fill the void and take it up. They're going to do the same thing we were doing. So it's like, and even like the logic of what he's saying is, like I said, like we need to be the bigger bad guys because there's bad guys out there. So we have to be more ruthless, more aggressive, more cunty, more devil worshipping to withstand the other bad guys out there. That's the logic of the question. If you think he's doing this as in like, this is an honest question, it's really being honest. If you think that, I'm sorry, bro. What do you want me to do? I got bridges to sell you. But for me, I smell a mile away this fucking guy doing some subverting ass shit. And if I was Dave, once again, I'd be an awful interview, by the way. I'd be an awful person to debate with. Not for the idea of winning, but for the idea of like, let's find out. What do you think of if we pulled out of these areas and China did this or Russia did that? I'd be like, let's find out. What's up? Of course, natural reaction. This guy would probably try to embarrass you for saying something like that. You're so stupid. You don't understand. I'm the smart person. I'm smart. You're dumb. I'm smart. I measured the materialistic repercussions of this scenario. I measured them. With my tiny fucking brain, I measured them. And I'm like, I'll hold you to it, bro. Or they'll hold you to the whole scenario. Yeah. Let's find out. Let's really do it. Find out. Pussy. You coward. Let's try it. Anyways, let's keep playing. Let's hear Dave's answers to this. I'm sure he's going to... Dave is like, once again, because, in my opinion, I think part of what Dave does is try to win debates, so thus he'll get caught by the question and get stuck in it. Well, in this scenario over here, and this scenario over there, and in 1945 this happened, and in 1921 this happened, and like he'll try to intellectualize, like try to keep up pace with, I think, loaded questions. I think there's landmines all throughout this question he's throwing out there. And I think Dave might run through the minefield trying to dance on it. Versus asking, why do you have a minefield, bro? What's up? What are you protecting? What are you guarding? Anyways, let's continue. I know Jordan's stupid, Dave's smart. Let's continue. Here we go.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think, sure, I've certainly heard this argument
Come on,
before.
Dave.
I would kind of point out that
no, I'm not,
it does seem to me that the more pro-war position almost always seems to rely on like an unfalsifiable counterfactual of how things would be way worse if we didn't do this. And whereas the anti-war position tends to more rely on the actual catastrophes that have happened. And so like, just to be clear, like,
all right, Dave.
Which I'll defend my philosophical views or whatever.
I've heard him say this before.
The idea of like, oh, the problem with the non-interventionist libertarians is that if we completely withdrew from the world, then China comes and totally takes over the world in our absence. It's like, okay, but like, just first, I will say, just on a practical level, like, without embracing pure Ron Paulianism or something, which is probably not going to happen tomorrow, like our criminal government in DC could have just not lied through their teeth to sell the war in Iraq. And like that would have just been a lot better. 1 million people would still be alive and trillions of dollars wouldn't have been wasted and tens of thousands of our bravest young boys wouldn't have committed suicide in the aftermath of it. And so like, we didn't need to fight all of these disastrous wars, even if you think on top of that, you can't completely pull back from the world.
And
but
girls,
I don't know. I fundamentally reject the idea that there will be one power who takes over the world. Part of
it wouldn't have to be one. Each regional power fills the vacuum of its own area that we leave.
Yeah,
I mean, and it's not a hypothetical based on nothing. It's based on, can you point to a single time period in the past 5,000 years of human civilization where the regional powers have not expanded using their militaries to the best of their ability, given the accounting for the blowback they will get? Can you point?
So, Dave, this is when you bring up, like, damn, man, it's kind of hard to find, but like, if I thought about it, you'd be like, wait a minute. We did all this bullshit to get into Iraq. We, quote-unquote, leave Iraq, although we didn't, but let's say we left Iraq, and it created a power vacuum. Thus, you have to examine how we get in these scenarios in the first place. And guess what? As president, I'd ask other countries and civilians of other countries to do the fucking same. Hey, why are we entangled in all these things? How'd we get here? Instead of just starting with, well, Iraq had a power vacuum and ISIS is there now and there's Al-Qaeda spreading all over the place. Why not ask how you got there and why you're there? Was there an entanglement with Syria? I mean, there kind of was, but then they actually built up things to make it the scenario where we're at right now, right? Doesn't that, like, blatantly apply right there? So you know what? Maybe you do this, Dave. As Dave Smith, as our new president, we're going to investigate every dumb fuck action we've taken to end up in stupid fucking wars. At the end of the day, when we lay all the information out, then you guys, the American people, you guys tell me which ones are legit and which ones are bullshit. Let's actually investigate every single little fucking thing. If a CIA guy punched a dude in fucking Guatemala, I want to know about it and call it out. How about that, Dave? Why not start there? But instead, Dave might get trapped. There we go. I'm so fucking tilted. Here we go.
Into any time. So it's not.
No, I'm not. Yeah, okay, but I'm not suggesting that that no regional powers will exert influence over their realm of their sphere of influence. Like, of course not. But I'm also seeing
we also
right
help
now,
their influence.
Vladimir Putin is limping through his third year in a war with Ukraine. I don't see him as being a threat to dominate Europe anytime soon. The rest of Europe is all against him and much wealthier and much stronger than him. China is more
But you
of a
implicitly,
power.
even in that argument, you concede implicitly that if they were less strong, for instance, if they didn't have at all the backing of the United States, that he could expand, and that would be the natural tendency throughout all of human history.
I'm not conceding that that's necessarily the natural tendency.
Remember, guys, I said human nature. They have to have it a part of their argument without substantiating it, by the way. They can't actually argue about human nature. They just say it. Whether you're right-wing or left-wing of, in my opinion, full of shit motherfuckers, a lot of their core arguments are based on human nature, which they will not actually talk about. Yo, tell me what that is. Sorry for cutting the genius and our Lord and Savior, Dave Smith. Here we go. Sorry for cutting him off. Here we go.
But sure, if Ukraine was weaker, he would be able to have defeated the country quicker. I'll certainly grant that.
It's not the natural
obvious.
tendency. So you don't agree with the Mearsheimer guys that believe great powers have a default tendency to expand up to the limit of the resistance.
You brought Mearsheimer.
Well, listen, certainly I think every organization has a desire to expand. I mean, this is true in general of businesses, of countries. So they're always trying to expand, not necessarily territorially. And I do think that a country like China, who is kind of known for playing the long game, even in their kind of crazy centrally controlled method. No, I don't think that they're watching America going bankrupt, fighting all of these wars and saying, oh, we got to get in on all that action. I think that, so essentially, yeah, I would probably agree with much of what John Mearsheimer says in the sense that it is the way of the world that great powers will have their realm of influence. I do think that's true. But looking at the world right now, I mean, it's just, I find this to be kind of a silly thing where we become the world empire, we bully the entire world, and then we sit there being worried that someone else is going to start doing this, whereas China has adversaries all around it. China has to contend with Japan and South Korea. It's not so obvious that they just take over the world. And no, I just essentially, no, I'm a George Washingtonian on this. I think that America, we struggle enough with just doing liberty right here. That should be our focus. And no, I don't think, like, I think you can trade with the world and be friends with the world. And yes, it will suck to be a little country next to a bigger, much stronger country. That's already true. That's true with America. We're more guilty of making it suck for little countries than any of them are. So I just don't find any of this stuff compelling.
Okay, let's move on because there are other.
And then let's move on, obviously. This was, okay, not a good enough soundbite, but I made Dave dance a bit. Let's move on. I'm going to move on, too, and find another timestamp. Oh, I just want to bring up also, by the way, like South Korea, Japan. Who has heavy influence over those areas? I mean, they brought up one of the wars, right? I think I brought up the other one. But the U.S. has actual influence in those territories and areas. So, once again, you leave room for the possibility that China's behaving the way they're behaving because of U.S. kind of hegemony in their areas. I'm just like, who holds more weight? Who holds more weight in South Korea? South Korea? Or the fucking president of the United States, or his administration, or the government in the Pentagon? Guess what? The Pentagon does. Japan, same thing. Let's not be stupid about this, guys. Like, let's just be honest. And it's like, we don't know. Like, once again, scientifically, how do we fucking know? Unless we stop preempting things because of, I don't know, some dumb fuck's paranoia. Once again, I'm waiting for aliens or Jesus or something to show up. Where do we go here? Do we do this one? Trump and the U.S.-Israel special relationship. Do I go there? Selling the Iraq War. You Tony Blair. Let's try that. Fuck it. I'll maybe play both. Here we go. Here we go.
Oh, we love the war in Iraq, testifies as a citizen, not as a leader of the party. And everyone in the room corroborates this story.
Okay. I would just say I highly recommend people read Mearsheimer's book, The Israel Lobby. The guy, this world-renowned scholar, wrote a book about the most controversial topic in the world. And so he just went out of his way to back up everything he says in the book. But the whole point is that, yes, initially there were people in Sharon's camp who didn't want to they all wanted to overthrow Saddam Hussein. Let's get real. They were worried about doing it first before
Congress
you
did.
go.
We signed the Iraq Liberation Act in '98,
Right.
so it was bipartisan
Lots of
policy
people
to
did.
push for
Okay,
regime change.
So that kind of helps
another.
my point. So let me just finish
Bipartisan.
the point I'm making. Right, exactly. So that totally backs up what I was just saying.
Not that Israel was behind it.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, continue your point. I'm sorry.
All right, man.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. Israel was totally against the war in Iraq. The whole year, AIPAC and the neocons and the Israel government were not pushing for the war in Iraq. I mean, anyway, I'd highly recommend people go read the book. It's all backed up in there. There's tons of evidence on it. AIPAC was bragging, by the way, about how their influence over the thing.
They bought the Iraq war for dentist money?
Yeah. No, I didn't say that, actually. It's just a lot of straw manning, man. How about just if I don't say it, don't just make that my argument for me. Anyway, the fact that the longest serving prime minister in Israeli history comes to America in 2002 and advocates to Congress, whether or not the decision had been made at the executive branch, advocates to Congress that we are going to, that you ought to overthrow the regime in Iraq, also overthrow the mullahs in Iran, also overthrow Gaddafi in Libya. That is relevant, man. And the fact is,
at the time he had been prime minister for 3 years. He wasn't the longest serving anything of anything. He was testifying as a private citizen.
Did I say that he was?
But it's relevant to the impact he would have had at the time.
No, but it's also relevant that he went on to be the.
And he testified after the Iraq war decision had already been finalized by the White House. What does it matter what he said after the decision was made, Dave?
Because he's talking to Congress and trying to persuade them to support it. I don't know, man. I mean, it does seem like you're bending over backward to cover for a foreign country. It's just a little bit strange. The longest serving prime minister in Israel's history comes over here and advocates that we fight multiple wars on his behalf. And that's nothing to you because the decision to fight one of them had already been made. I don't know what to say. The neoconservatives drove us into the war in Iraq. They were all publicly admitting this at the time. This wasn't a secret.
Yes, but
There's no conspiracy
not for
involved.
Israel's sake. But not for Israel's sake. We agree on the
That had
first half of that sentence.
nothing to do with Israel. They all the neocons just happened to
That's not true.
write about how.
Hold on. It has nothing to do with Israel, and it's all Israel. For me, at least, my opinion. I think it's teammates, gangsters working together to terraform the earth in their own image, which means fucked up shit for regular people while they sip wine and have parties and shit like that. That's honestly what I say. But I guess we're going all or nothing, apparently. Yeah. All right. Here we go.
How much they love Israel all the time. All right.
Okay, so what's your theory of Tony Blair? Because in my view, Tony Blair is the second most important architect of the war in Iraq.
Is it me or is this timestamp just way off or something? I'm getting end portions. But they're already on the can't even trust the timestamps. Fuck. Listen, Coleman, you fuck everything up, bro.
Gaza, Hamas, and the morality of war.
It's Hamas fucking with timestamps. All right, maybe I start here and it leads right to this thing I want to see, which is Gaza, Hamas, and the morality of war. Maybe they get at least a portion of that. Here we go. Let's try it.
Over the border with Jordan, which would be very easy to do. And you're essentially telling your people, I'm going to put you in much more jeopardy than you're already in. So this is the trade-off Israel faces.
Yeah, it's like which I know I've quoted before when talking about this, but it's that old Thomas Jefferson quote about slavery, where he's like, "We have the wolf by the ear and can neither afford to hold on to it nor safely let it go." And like it's like, I just Coleman, they've been occupying them since 1967. Are they concerned about what might happen if they take their boot off their neck? Okay.
But
You
they
still don't get to do that to people. We got a real problem with black crime in this
Fair enough,
country,
fine.
Coleman. But if I said, let's reinstitute slavery and that will take care of the problem with black crime, I think you'd go, yeah, you don't have a right to do that. And if not having slavery means that it's a little bit more dangerous in some areas, tough. Deal with that. You don't, Israel, look, dude, this is just so obvious. It's bananas to me that anybody who lives in a first world country on this side of the Enlightenment can just not say, look, Israel's got two options here. Your options, if you want to be a moral country or whatever, your options are you can say, we can't give them their own state. And so we're just annexing all of this land and giving citizenship to all the Palestinians, and we will all live under one state together. Or you can stop occupying them militarily and let them have their own, autonomy. Those are the options. You can't just keep your boot on these people's neck forever because you're worried about what might happen, even if it's a legitimate worry about what might happen if you take your boot off. And the idea that on the other side of this, the Palestinians are just supposed to accept you live in subjugation in perpetuity forever because some of your leaders made bad decisions. And then, you can say like, look, you could have made this argument about Egypt. I don't think they had a strong enough state to control their radicals or something like that. Now, we could get into a whole separate argument, which is that I think there's a very strong argument that actually Israel is going to face much more of a terrorist threat while they're occupying these areas than they would if they were to give them their own state. And I think there's lots of good reasons to suspect that. But just purely on a principled ground, this is just totally indefensible. And there's no other country that we would call a democracy who behaves this way. It's like I don't know. I just find this whole thing to be so goofy. Like either this is Israel, either you're saying Israel has a legitimate claim to Gaza and the West Bank, or you're saying they do not. And if they do not, then they have to stop occupying them. And if they do, then they have to give citizenship to the people that they control. So it's really fundamental Western civilization stuff.
So the analogy to slavery is a bad one for many reasons. But first, yes, Jefferson and Southerners in general, they feared, partly based on Haiti and other examples, that if they gave slaves freedom, it would result in a race war. And this was highly motivating for Southerners. They turned out to be completely wrong. Now, there was a lot of evidence at the time that this wouldn't happen, namely the fact that you had Black people living very peacefully all over the North with no problem. You even had free Blacks in the South with no problem. And so you would have had to cherry pick massively to look at the Nat Turner revolt, say, erase all the other evidence of peaceful coexistence between whites and blacks and say, we can't let these people have freedom because look at Nat Turner.
Is he doing this? He's about to do this, isn't he? But now let's look at Palestinians. Fucking horror movie shit. He's about to do it, isn't he? Look at those guys, though. You can't trust them. If he does that shit, I'm gonna freak out. Here we go.
Only that, there was no, anytime there was Black leadership, the most famous Black leader, the most important Black leader in the aftermath of the Civil War was Booker T. Washington, right? You can make the same argument about like the Civil Rights Movement, right? We can't give them voting rights because then they're going to make decisions that are going to be terrible. It's going to be a race war. They're going to destroy us. They're going to slaughter us. Every single popular Black leader.
We have Michael Jordan and Muhammad Ali. Who do Palestinians have, huh? Who do they have? All right, you see my point now? You can't take the boot off the neck. You can't do it. They might take you over. If he goes there, I swear to God, I'm going to freak out. Here we go.
Booker T. Washington,
Who
utterly
is this
peaceful,
robot?
had the total faith and devotion of the black
Drawn
community.
on
He was
facial
the
haired
most beloved
robot.
figure, and he was fundamentally nonviolent. Martin
Already
Luther
showing
King,
his hand.
5 foot
absolutely
tall
the most
dweeby
beloved figure
robot.
within the black community, much more so than Malcolm X at the time, and even Malcolm X in his most radical mood. Never.
He wasn't a terrorist, yeah.
He wasn't a terrorist. So there was an enormous amount of evidence in the case of African Americans in the United States that the likely result of loosening the chains was not going to be a race war. It's just that people ignored that evidence.
But
now,
fine,
when
but
you
let's say it
translate that
was.
to the Israeli-Palestinian
but
conflict,
let's
they
say it
leave
was.
Gaza. They leave Gaza. Two different countries impose a harsh blockade in response to rockets against Israel. And one of those two countries gets October 7th and not the other. So one question I have for you is like, why doesn't Hamas attack Egypt? Why can't they spare a single rocket for Egypt if it's all about the blockade and occupation?
No, I mean, obviously, because their hatred
What the fuck, dude? Why haven't they attacked Alaska, huh? Why haven't they? Huh? Why haven't they done that? There's always this thing. Especially like when you hear someone like Douglas Murray, right? These like pseudo intellectuals, they talk a certain way. It kind of maybe makes them feel like they're smart or some shit like that. Maybe maybe that's the reason. But they always say some dumbass shit, and it's like it's so blatant and exposing. And I don't think these fools can contain themselves when they say these stupid ass fucking statements.
He is Douglas Murray, but he's a
Why will they?
soft-spoken one.
Yo, Jesse.
He's very calm when.
Wait, Jesse. How come they're not bombing Minnesota? Huh? How come? Why not? Dave's
leading.
smiling. You should laugh at that. Be like, all right, yeah, sure, pal. Next question. What do you got? That's an embarrassing thing to say. And this guy's like, so, listen, Dave. How come they're not bombing Egypt? In this pseudo intellectual voice, like you little fake poser, little pussy ass motherfucker, bro. You weirdo. All right, I'll watch, but at the same time, I'm gonna watch Dave dance with this same question. He's gonna dance with it probably, and have some form of an answer for it. When it's like, yeah, Dave, sometimes questions are really stupid, and maybe you shouldn't dance. They're just like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? Nah, next question, man. Next question. The fuck are we talking about here? But instead, he has to watch this dude lick his lips and fold his hands. What do you think about that, Dave? Huh? Like, get the fuck out of here, dude. I'm sorry for not giving an intellectual response to this question about why they're not rocketing Egypt. I'm sorry not to give that answer. But it's just absurd. The whole scene of this movie is absurd to me. So forgive me for not having that intellectual answer. Here we go. Christ, man.
of Israel is on a whole different level. And also, like, yeah, I don't know, like, there's
So then it's not all about the blockade and the...
No, it's not. No, it's not all. A lot of it's about the creation of the state of Israel. A lot of it's about the fact that they view that as their land, that a lot of them did get kicked out of. Of course, all of this stuff is involved. But anyway, back to your point, though. But like, so say there was a higher risk. And again, I wasn't saying, I wasn't saying, a lot of times when people make logical analogies, people say, well, that's a bad analogy because the situations aren't the same. But there's a difference between equating two different things and making a logical analogy. The claim isn't that they're the same. But let's say there was going to be a real increase in crime, or let's say there was that some of the black leaders were more radical and were, hold on, let me just finish.
Sure.
And were advocating violence. Is the answer then continue the institution of slavery? I mean, the thing is no, right? It's obviously, and look, the thing about this is with all of this stuff, with all of this, I just feel like to be a defender of Israel requires you to not be like fair-minded to both groups here. It requires you to think of like, oh, but think about the danger that the Israelis might have to deal with if they were to give these people a state. It's like, yeah, think about the danger that the Palestinians are in being militarily occupied. Like, how are you going to sit here and tell these people that you guys have to embrace nonviolence, your leaders all have to be nonviolent leaders, while the Israeli leaders can be as horrifically violent as they want to? You know, you call Hezbollah a terrorist organization, you call Hamas a terrorist organization. I'm like, fair enough. I don't really object to that categorization. I don't exactly see why the IDF wouldn't also be categorized as a terrorist organization.
So,
it's like,
but here's the crucial difference. The crucial difference is that
You can do the same with the U.S.
Israeli society, as we've discussed
And England.
in this conversation,
in Australia.
if they feel they have a partner for peace, are capable of offering,
Cambodia.
of negotiating in good faith and making an offer because they don't want to serve in the army for the rest of time. They don't want to send their boys to fight these wars. Hamas rejects the two-state solution, period.
That is not
So-
true.
but we just talked about so does
without,
Benjamin
hold on,
Netanyahu.
without
No, that is not true. Does he mean like specific borders? Is that what he means? That one, yeah, I'm sure no one likes that thing. One side feels like land was stolen, another side feels like the land is theirs, whatever. So, okay, maybe on the borders, but the idea of a two-state solution is not. That's not outside of the realm of Hamas, as far as what I've seen them say. In fact, I think they openly volunteer. Like, yeah, we'll disarm. We'll give up our weapons. We are done as a military, straight up. If you give Palestinians a state, Palestinian statehood, they will accept that. That's what I've heard. So, once again, maybe he means borders, but then again, the way he said that sounds like kind of dishonest to what I understand to be the case. For the most part, I've seen Israel reject that idea. What was the more recent things being said, right? You'd be rewarding Hamas if you give them a state. Isn't that an idea floating around right now from Trump's 20-point plan? So, this is actually nonsense what he just said. Oh, whatever. Who cares, man? Here we go.
but Israel is a democracy and they will vote Netanyahu out of power if they feel that the other side is capable and interested.
But they've
in a
made him their
permanent end to the
longest serving
conflict.
prime minister in their country's history. So, like, they're not voting
And
him out of
but when
power
did
that much.
Need
hold
Dave
on.
they
to
are.
say
I think they
it's
are.
just wrong.
Yeah, exactly. It's wrong, and yes. By the way, I think they are trying to vote this motherfucker out, but it's wartime, so you can't do that. It needs to be in there because it's wartime. And yes, Jesse, I absolutely agree. Can easily make the moral argument and all that stuff. Whatever. I understand. Whatever. Here we go.
So, like, they're not voting
And
him out of
but when
power
did
that much.
Hold on. This happened as you yourself admitted, not even reluctantly. I don't mean to phrase it that way. The second Intifada, Israel offered a two-state end of conflict, period. It was rejected by the Palestinians, and then the second Intifada was launched. This was, mothers sending their kids on two different buses to schools because a bus was getting blown up every 3 days, right? Which was traumatizing for a country the size of New Jersey. I can't imagine how I would react having grown up in New Jersey if there was 2 bombs going off a week just in my state alone.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would demand of my government.
You have to laugh at this fucking fool, Dave. He's an idiot. He's a pseudo-intellectual idiot. I can't imagine growing up in New Jersey. If it was being bombed every day, If I'm trying to get Anthony to tilt. That's so fucking funny, dude. I'm sorry.
What's the over-under on how many times he's rehearsed that?
Listen, can you imagine that? Growing up in New Jersey. Yeah, I'm telling you, bro. This fool's embarrassingly bad. And Dave puts on pouty, sad face. All right, whatever. Okay. I'm sorry for cracking jokes, but we're at stupid territory at this point. So I might as well just shit talk. Like, what am I doing? Like, why should I analyze anything when it's like this is not meant to be taken serious, in my humble opinion. I mean, you can't, obviously, you can take the arguments and use it as like, oh, this could be good practice to debate against. But in reality, I don't think this guy has an ounce of like realness when he talks out loud on his program. Hopefully, off camera, he has friends and family. But on camera, this fool is full of shit. Full of fucking shit. And I don't see like how else to treat it other than that. I mean, the best I could do would be to ask like questions, to be like ask like a question, like a really dumb guy logic question. If this guy answers in some sort of narrative type of sense, I'd be like, "Oh, you're full of shit, aren't you? Why am I doing this?" Because no matter what I say, you're gonna do. I'm not here to trick your audience. I'm not here to trick my audience. I'm here to talk to you. And what if you're full of shit when you talk? What's the fucking point at that point? Whatever. Here we go.
The
And
size
I
of
know,
New
Jordan,
Jersey.
shut
I
up.
can't imagine
I know.
how I
Sorry.
would react
Sorry.
having grown up in New Jersey if there's 2 bombs going off a week just in my state alone.
Yeah,
I would
absolutely.
demand of my
Imagine growing
government
up in
to
New
do-
Jersey.
to absolutely do
If bombs
what
are
it
going
had
off,
to do
I
to
mean.
make us
Sorry.
safe. Not only that, the fact that this came right after an offer of peace and what Shlomo Ben Ami called the biggest effort ever to pressure an international leader on any
Shlomo?
issue to end this conflict. Because the world, my God, we have to see this conflict end at some point. It's so heartbreaking. The problem with this is that Israeli
I
society can
believe
move
your
because it's
emotions.
a democracy. Hamas can't move. Hamas is absolutely committed to rejecting the only solution that could bring an end to this conflict. And so Hamas is like a rock, whereas Israel, object as much as you want to Netanyahu. I'm not going to defend him. I'm not going to defend Smotrich. I'm not going to defend Ben-Gvir. Israel is a democracy
Yes,
that
you
can
are.
move to the left if the opportunity came, sign a peace treaty that will be inked for all time. How the hell do we get that with Hamas running the Gaza Strip when every single time they are asked, they say, we reject any alternative for all time, except between the river and the sea?
It's not true. It's not true. Unless he has some sort of embedded information that I've never heard of in regards to Hamas. Unless he has like personal spy networks that tell us what's actually going on with Hamas. On the surface, on paper, we do have that deal there. It isn't river to the sea. You're fucking making shit up, dude. This guy's a fucking liar. And
He's got
Dave,
some information
from
he reads the Free Press.
okay. You watch
He writes
CBS News
for it,
lately.
too.
Got it. Yeah. Listen, sorry to do this, Dave. I'm going to call you what your mom calls you. Listen, David. Sometimes people are full of shit. And guess what? The most important thing in those scenarios might not be to win the debate against a full of shit artist. It might be to showcase, hey man, is this guy full of shit? Pose the question. I beg you to, Dave. Whether it's dumb guy logic, like a dumb guy logic scenario where this guy has to do like backflips to make this thing sound okay. Whether it's that, or you outright ask him, hey man, are you full of shit? Because guess what? Doing arm wrestling with a full of shit artist is not going to get anywhere other than your fans saying, yeah, Dave got him. It's probably the best you can ask for out of this scenario. I mean, there's some people, like, I'm not saying everyone's like that. I'm just saying, like, some people will probably swing the sides, I'm sure, or be like, oh, man, I've been a longtime fan of Coleman Robot Hughes, but you know what? Dave convinced me. I'm joining Team Dave. Or I'm done with Robot Hughes. Whatever. There's some people that do that. But I think the overall point, once again, it's not about convincing audiences. It's about you talking to him. And if someone's just lying to your fucking face, what do you do about that? You try to win strategically? Strategically win a debate with them? Or is it like, hey man, for your own need, in my humble opinion, when I'm talking to you personally, I think you're full of shit. You might want to clean that up. You might want to work on that. Maybe that's why the world fucking sucks. At least it's foreign policy. All right, here we go.
Yeah,
So
there
shut up,
actually
man.
have
Like,
been
I'm
different periods of
shut up.
time where Hamas leaders have said they would accept 67 borders, but they have also a lot of times said they wouldn't, and so
including
I'm
over and over and over
Yeah,
again
I'm not-
recently, and in their charter.
Yeah, I'm not even like arguing with you on that detail, but you know, it's always like when you say like Hamas. First of all, I actually disagree with fundamentally with your premise that democracies like have this ability to move.
We're not there.
I think actually one of
Dave, I'm sorry, Dave. Even information-wise, why wouldn't you, like, hey, let's find out. Let's do a ceasefire, stop everything, and say, hey, man, we are willing to give you a state. Now let's negotiate the borders. But we're not even there. We're nowhere near that, Dave, to even find out what their actual answer is. I almost guarantee if Hamas was like, nope, we're not doing these, their own citizens would kick them the fuck out. Like, get the fuck out of our lives. We're getting a state. All right, let's argue this. Let's really argue this. Not with Hamas leading anything. And I think that's been stated, actually. I think even Hamas already went to that length of saying, yeah, we'll drop our arms, either leave or we'll stick around as not Hamas anymore. We'll drop our fucking arms, our guns, and all that shit. If the real thing is negotiating a fucking state. Here we go.
have also a lot of times said they wouldn't, and so
including
I'm
over and over and over again recently, and in their charter.
Yeah, I'm not even like arguing with you on that detail, but you know, it's always like when you say like Hamas. First of all, I actually disagree with fundamentally with your premise that democracies like have this ability to move. I think actually one of the kind of counterintuitive, strange realities is that often democracies get very stuck. And for example, like the political system in the United States of America really has not like fundamentally changed nearly as much as the political system in China has over, say, like the last 40 years. And they did it through a one-party dictatorship. They still call themselves because the one party says business is good now, and then all of a sudden it's a drastically different thing than it was before. But regardless of that,
money, got it.
Yeah, but like you can say there's a lot of things Hamas could do that would be a lot better than the things that Hamas has done and could do now that would be better than the things they're doing. Israel also can end the war. It's not true that only one side could do the things that would end the war. I don't even know if you can call it a war. But
You
Israel
could end this
could.
war. But Hamas is just going to restart the war.
It's not even really a war, man. Like a war, you kind of think of as like two governments with militaries battling. It's a captive
Hamas has
people.
What, 20,000, 30,000 people? That's not a war? Hamas has 30,000 fighters or whatever it is?
Yeah, no, it's a captive people who have been held stateless without a military of their own being like annihilated. I mean, like, yeah, I don't think war is exactly the right word. But regardless of that, Israel also has the opportunity. Israel can simply say, we're going to stop militarily occupying the West Bank. We're going to pull those, and we're going to live in 67 borders. And you do what you want to do, but if you attack us, we're responding. They could do that too, and they have not done that.
Yeah,
but
well,
I do just
hold on.
again,
So,
hold on.
again,
Let me just get a points out here because I'm listening to what you have to say. Again, I find this to be like kind of fascinating. Every time I debate or have a discussion like this about the topic,
Stay with the dumb guy
I'm just
logic.
always struck by the fact that you have like, we're halfway around the world. There is a long-standing conflict that's going on between the Israelis and the Palestinians. But yet, when you talk about this again, which, by the way, I'm with you on, I think we should think about, like, what would it be like to live in a state the size of New Jersey where there's school buses being blown up every day? Listen, I live in the state of New Jersey and I have little kids. Like, when you say that, I'm listening and I'm like genuinely trying to put myself in that position. And by the way, I am not saying I'm like a very good person. I think I would go to a pretty bad place pretty quickly if I thought one of my kids were threatened. However, in this conflict, Gaza is a substantially smaller place than Israel and has way more bombings going off, way more innocent people being killed. And so I just always find it interesting that, like, okay, we're going to put ourselves in the Israeli shoes. Like, okay, I'm fine to do that. Let's do that. Could we also attempt to do that to the other side here? Like,
easily.
You know,
I'll do it right now.
So
I'll do it right
like,
now. Hold on. I'll do it right now.
Thousandfold
I'll do it
worse.
right now, Dave.
This dude's so foolish.
This is the point I tried to make before, but I don't think I made it precisely enough. Let's put ourselves in the shoes of Palestinians for a moment. Now, we know from the history of the 20th century, whether it is the partition of India and Pakistan or the partition of Sudan and South Sudan more recently, that when you have a situation like this, a gruesome situation where two peoples can't get along and there's slaughtering on both sides, it seems like pretty much the best formula we have is something like a partition along roughly ethnic lines. It's not a perfect solution by any means, but Sudan
did
and
not
South
put himself
Sudan
in
are
their
fighting
position.
with each other as states a
He
lot
did
less
the opposite.
than they did when it was
Yeah.
one state for 50 years of brutal civil war. So if I'm a Palestinian in Gaza right now, purely looking from my own perspective, sure, I would absolutely want Israel to end the war to alleviate my immediate suffering. But I would also like to think that I would understand the regime that rules Gaza right now is committed to a forever war against Israel, which means if Israel withdraws, ends the war right now, leaves Hamas in power, Gaza is again on borrowed time until the next time that Hamas is able to find a crack in the armor, which always happens. And so, in addition to wanting Israel to end the war, I would really want to see some massive international effort to get rid of Hamas. And I don't know how you do that because Hamas embeds itself in the civilian population and uses them as a shield. But I would understand.
What do you see, Jesse?
Just purely from the point of view of me wanting, I'd love to live in a situation like South Sudan and Sudan. We don't have to love each other, but we're not at each.
Fuck the analytics, Jesse. What do you say?
Yeah.
Fuck the analytics. What do you say? What do you see on screen right here?
It's
the sound of his voice. This guy, all of it.
He's well, I mean, he's a dirtbag, but he's
go ahead.
Like that's why I said earlier, like how rehearsed he is. Like these things he said over and over and over. This scenario is weird. Like he has the conclusions and he works his way backwards. He was ready to put himself in that position, but he started by being he started by painting a picture in the third person. He wasn't even on either part. He just stepped out, third person. Okay, let's paint the picture. And he said he's a Palestinian in this case, but Hamas is like screwing things up. Like, like that's their government, right? Like I don't like he's creating situations that like he's just lying.
I'm sorry, dude. He could be saying blah 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 blah. I'd be like, he's full of shit. Those blahs are full of shit. That's what he smells like to me. Forgive me for that, but that's my intuition. That's what I smell, and that's why I was asking that, Jesse. I'm like, fuck the analytics. Yeah. What are you seeing on screen? What is that? Oh, what's happening here? What is happening here? Oh my Christ! Holy fucking shit! Sorry, guys, but that's where I'm at. That is where I'm at. I got nothing but shit talking left. I'm sure I've made these arguments that some of these things these guys are saying already. And there's days where I'm like, fuck it, Black Swan. It's Black fucking Swan time. And these guys say some of the... It's like almost like I can sit here and argue every little angle of statements you're making. Or I could be like, wait a minute. Why am I engaging with a fucking liar like this? And honest to God, I'm watching this video to watch Dave now at this point. Initially, I had no idea who Robot Coleman was. But after hearing, like, I had some guesses that ended up being correct. But now I'm just watching this. You're like, yo, Dave, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with a fucking robot in your face with pre-programmed answers? What do you do with that, Dave? But hey, man, are you authentically engaging with me? Or are you here for something else? Because this kid wasn't born this way. Let's just be honest, right? This dude on screen was not born with these narratives in his head. Let's be very honest about that. Thus, you have to check him as a human being. Like, yo, man, you being real with me? You being human with me? Or are you ChatGPT of fuckface's creation? Whatever, Barry Weiss to whatever, whoever, right? Government institutions. Are you there, ChatGPT, to here to run up my time or some shit like that, or try to make me look bad, or whatever? Like, what are you here for? What's going on? Why are we really here talking? Are you actually talking, Robot Coleman? Or is it someone else talking? Is it fucking Dr. Frankenstein talking for you? Whatever. Here we go. I mean, it's like, it is. What else can I do? Do you want to sit here and analyze every little fucking word this guy says? Come on. Here we go.
Each other's throats.
It's
We could
easy
be
to-
like,
it's easy to shut up.
we could be a
Easy.
frozen conflict like North and South Korea. We can hate each other. The only way you get to a frozen conflict is with a ruling entity in Gaza that could actually agree to a frozen conflict because it's what they want. So how do you get that without getting rid of Hamas?
Hamas is.
And this is from the Palestinian
breakers.
perspective.
Yeah, I guess it kind of is. I don't really think it's a very reasonable way to look at it
Then
from
why
the
am I
Palestinian
looking at
perspective.
videos of
I think-
Palestinians protesting Hamas?
Oh, okay.
This is the Palestinian position, by the way. He says after all that shit he just said. But I saw a video of them protesting Hamas. Then why are you bombing them? It's like dumb guy logic. Hey, why are you bombing Palestinians then if they're protesting Hamas? Your bombs aren't harming Hamas, apparently. Apparently, for every 100 Hamas guys you get, you kill 6,000 of them.
The protesters.
Oh, okay. Got it. And Hamas killed them, by the way, as human shields. Because if Hamas stands still, right, and holds some baby above their head, it'll stop a missile. The missile will kill the baby, and Hamas will be safe.
They're under the bed. So
Because that's how physics works. And this guy does this with no fucking emotion on his face. He does it too. That should be the scary part. No flinching, no nothing. It's like, what lab made you? Look for a fucking barcode on this fool's fucking body somewhere. Pause. Check this fool for batteries. Check him. Here we go. Embarrassing.
What's their point of view?
Embarrassing.
Their
Okay.
point of view is exactly what I just said.
There were some videos of people protesting Hamas. There's been
trying
some
my best,
protests of
Barry.
the Israeli government
Don't
in
beat me up
Israel
today.
too. One could argue not nearly enough on
you
both
imagine?
sides or whatever. But like, yeah,
I might
no,
take
I
that
think
job.
that I think that if your
Have a Barry beat
story
the
was
shit out of me.
okay, and keep in mind with these things that often when people talk about war, people talk about the conflict like this side started it, this side was guilty, this side did it, when really what's going on is that there are people in positions of power who are making decisions, and then there's a whole bunch of innocent people just caught up in the situation. The entire project of Israel, the entire project of a bunch of Eastern Europeans deciding that they wanted to go create a state in land where Arabs were already living, when it came into fruition, resulted in hundreds of thousands of them being expelled from where they were living or not allowed to return. After the 6-Day War, they were occupied
I don't
for
think that's an intellectually honest way of describing the birth of Israel.
I think it's
it
a
wasn't-
factually correct
Yes.
way of describing
it's
it.
very easy to paint a dishonest picture by leaving out a lot of facts.
Okay.
This is why we have the
certainly-
phrase lie of omission.
Sure, but
You know what? I would troll this fool at this point. Listen, Israel's not even that good at basketball, and no. Israel has a very substantial basketball league. Like apparently he has to say that stuff. Apparently, you got to troll at that point, Dave. You got to black swan it, bro. At some point. Hey, listen, Israel's not that good at hockey. Listen, Israel is actually excellent at hockey. There's 34 hockey rinks throughout the city of Tel Aviv, and all those I heard all those players are pretty solid though. Like, you gotta troll. Like, is everything I say gonna be like put through a machine, or do you have a mind for your own?
I think that
It's like
liable
weird,
mission.
dude. It's weird. Yeah,
Yeah,
good. Sorry.
the liable mission. Like as soon as he said that, I'm thinking, okay, that's what you should call his position if he was a Palestinian. He had that empathy, but he did omit like
Yeah.
just about everything.
The actual circumstance.
Yeah.
Listen, if I lived in New Jersey. All right, here we go.
I wasn't
Well, it's
claiming
very
to have been
important.
telling
very
the
important.
totality
So
of
stupid when you
everything
say
that
it.
ever happened there.
No. But crucial facts, like
Okay.
a bunch of Eastern Europeans deciding to go to Palestine. That framing ignores the fact that
The Holocaust?
Eastern European refugees, basically their plan A was all, and I think you know this, to flood into New York and Canada and other places and escape the pogroms and the slaughtering of the Russian Civil War and do what any human being would do and get the hell
okay,
away
going
from the
older.
violence against your family. Then the entire West closed its doors. America closed its doors essentially in 1921, 24. Canada closed its doors. Australia closes doors, Latin America closes doors, and only then do you see Eastern European Jews saying, okay, this place, Palestine, I guess we can't get into New York. I guess we'll start going there. I mean, it was trickles before that happened.
There was a
And so
Balfour
it was a
Declaration
refugee
for-
state. They weren't ideological Zionists for the most part. And I don't think anyone could go back without 2020 hindsight and tell them that they shouldn't have gone there. So I think that's very important context, and it's also important context if you just
What about the Balfour
start the story at the ending and
Declaration
say, and at the as you did,
in the
as the
Talmud?
end result, 750,000 Palestinians were pushed out. Well, what happened? Palestinians started a civil war in Mandate Palestine, and then 5 Arab countries all at once invaded Israel in a war of aggression.
Yeah,
Those decisions didn't need to be made. They're pretty relevant context. You don't really understand the last scene of the movie without the first. So I think that's important.
Yeah, I guess, again, it's all just irrelevant to the point that I was trying to make. And again, you're back to just harping on the perspective of the Jews and then the Zionists and then the Israelis. The point I was making is that there's another perspective here too. And all of that is true, essentially what you said. I mean, not exactly. I mean, like the King Crane Commission also pretty accurately predicted what the future of this struggle was going to look like when they were looking at it in 1919 or whatever year it was,
watch me get copyrighted for
1920,
this. That'd be hilarious.
when they went over there. They went, man, you're going to try to create a Jewish state here. This is just going to be permanent struggle. It's going to require permanent
they believe
force
free speech.
because this is just something
Free
that,
press.
obviously the people who live here are going to resist. I'm saying from the perspective of the Palestinian person who didn't start that war or didn't do that and just happened to be one of the people caught up in there and got kicked out of their land, then you're occupied for 60 years. The Israeli project, I'm not saying this is the entirety of everything. Yes, there are things being omitted here, just like every time both of us speak, we're not telling the entire story of all of history. The experiment of Israel, the experiment of Europeans trying to create a Jewish state on land where Arabs lived, that is what they did. There might have been reasons for that, but that's what ended up happening. The result of that was 750 Arabs being expelled from where they lived and not allowed back in.
1,000?
For the period between 1948 and 1967, they're living as refugees in different places. Then from 1967 all the way up till today, they're militarily occupied by a foreign power, and now it's culminating in what scholars will debate whether it's a genocide or not, okay? Or whatever the hell you want to call this. I don't want to get caught up in semantics here. All of that happened too. And then after all of that, you sit here, Coleman, and you go, why are they attacking Israel and not Egypt? It's because there's a long history here, man. And they're really pissed off about this.
Hold on.
And
I think this is it's worth actually dwelling on this because what you didn't emphasize in your story is that Egypt obviously occupied Gaza for 19 years.
And Jordan occupied the West Bank for 19 years. Yep, that's true.
Did not give them a state.
That's true.
Could have given them a state, did not. And Egypt has every single bit of harsh blockade since 2007, Egypt copy-paste, absolutely. In fact,
I'd be like, hey man, yeah, I'd complain about that too. If I was alive while all this shit was happening, I'd complain about that too. What's your fucking point? Well, they did that stuff over there. Yeah, if I was there when Genghis Khan was massacring people, I'd complain about that too. What about it? God, it's embarrassing, man. Actually embarrassing. Like, when I say, like, no spiritual backbone, I mean, holy fucking Christ. This dude doesn't have a regular fucking backbone. And Dave, you're kind of weak too. To be honest with you, Dave's kind of weak too, bro. He's weak. Like, dude, you don't. There's a fucking snake in your garden. You're just like, oh, okay. No offense to snakes. I'm just saying. These guys just float around Dave like no, there's no problem about it. Intellectually speaking. Here we go.
Worse, because when they discovered smuggling tunnels
Whatever.
underneath the Gaza border, they pumped them with poison gas and sewage and killed Palestinians as a result. Now, if Israel had done that, that would be exhibits A through Z on why Hamas is fighting Israel for legitimate, understandable reasons. And yet, Egypt does all of that, and Hamas
they
can't
fighting
spare a
Egypt?
single rocket. And this is practically a science experiment for understanding what Hamas actually cares about. I think you're very quick to see pretenses in American foreign policy and very slow to see them in other groups around the world.
No, I don't think so, man. I'm not.
But
I
again,
don't
this
think
is
so.
practically
I'm
a
not.
science experiment. It's practically a science experiment to see actually what does Hamas care about. It is entirely about the humiliation
Science
of having a
experiment.
Jewish state on that land, not about the occupation, not about not having a country. For them, it's not about the settlements in the West Bank. For them, Tel Aviv is the same as a settlement in the West Bank. It's all one phenomenon of a Jewish state that needs to be expired from the river to the sea.
Well, look,
They're
I mean, I
they're
think
just racist.
again, it's not.
They're so
When
racist
you
over
say
there.
that, oh, I could see. This is what I think is kind of bizarre about this, right? Is that you'll say, oh, you could see all the corruption in like the American war party or the Israeli war party or something like that, but you can't see obviously here with Hamas too. But that's just not right. I'm not sitting here defending Hamas. Hamas has just been horrible. They're like a death cult.
I didn't say corruption. I said false pretense. It's a different
Sure,
argument.
the false pretense, whatever you want to, whatever.
So you agree
we're
it's
talking
a
about.
false Hamas's concern about blockade and occupation and not having a state. You agree this is a false pretense and that is
You could say that, but it's like, but you're defending other people's false pretenses. So like arguing with you, it means not like Dave. He's trying to jerk you around, bro. No pause, by the way. He's trying to jerk you around to intellectually like win something from you. Stop it right, like step on the fucking thing right there. It's like, nope, we're not doing that. I want you to showcase for everyone. That's my only point being here. I want you to showcase that you're a little cunt. You're a little robotic cunt. I want you to show I want you to show the world that. That's what Dave should be doing, honestly, in my opinion. Here we go. I might skip through this. 67 borders.
actually about the humiliation
play a
of a
little
Jewish
bit.
state. On
I
that
think
land.
that we are so many decades into this thing that it's devolved to the tragic level where Hamas is basically a death cult. And yeah, it's a grudge. They're trying to get back at the Israelis any way they can.
Thanks, Dave.
For the most part. Yeah, that's like yes, essentially.
job,
like
Dave.
I do think that's right. And I also would say that like what I think everybody should kind of accept here, in the same way that like we're not giving the land back to the Native Americans, man. And like it's horrible the way states rise to be. I mean, I'm a radical libertarian. My fundamental view is essentially that states are gangs who took over and are in some sense perceived as legitimate, but that's essentially what they are, the ruling gang in a geographic territory. And so yeah, lots of them are created in real messy, immoral circumstances. But generations later, you'd be doing the same thing over to a whole new group of innocent people if you were to kick all the Israelis out of Israel and make it from the river to the sea all Palestinian or something like that. I think that's why almost every adult in the room, when there's been real negotiations or when there's been real talks of ever getting close to a peace process, have always started talking about 67 borders, right? But so the dynamic is this. I essentially think,
I'll give him a couple last words.
as horrible as the Nakba was, and as horrible as the 1948 war was, and as horrible as all of that is, yeah, I do think that eventually people can get over that and move on. It's very, very painful.
Well, not only that, but everyone else in an analogous situation from the 1940s has moved on.
Yeah, but the other factor there, Coleman, is that they occupied them militarily for 60 years, the longest military occupation in the world.
We have to talk about the 67 world. Why did that happen? Israel did not choose that war.
Okay. I don't care to you. I mean, once again, there's not that good. There's not a lot of good swimmers in Israel. Well, no, wait, hold on. Now, if you go back to 1975, you saw the swimming team that was in the Olympics. They're actually really good. When you're in those type of discussions, you have to call it out. Otherwise, you're stuck in it. But let's move on, actually. Let's see. What if America cut off support for Israel? Well, let's find out. Their timestamps are dog shit. I don't know if the robot made it or his other robot producer made it. I don't know, but it may be caught in the middle of a conversation instead of actually real timestamped. Here we go.
Yeah, so I mean, I fear we're going in circles here, but that is what an Israeli would say they did in 2005. We left Gaza, we left Lebanon, and where are the places we're getting attacked from most? Not the West Bank, not the place we're occupying, but the places we left, including the places like Lebanon, where they're not even Palestinian, right? They're not even Palestinian, they're not even Sunni. They have their land, we don't want their land, and so if I were living there, I would say, okay, Dave Smith is telling me that if we withdraw from the West Bank, if we end the occupation, we'll have a much lower chance of terror than if we keep the occupation. But the evidence of my eyes and ears and everything around me is that we are getting attacked precisely from the places that we leave and less so from the places that we're occupying. And if I put myself in those shoes, I say, well, why should I buy this guy's theory? This guy, he may thinks he understands the psychology of the enemy we're facing, but all of the evidence points in the opposite direction. And why, with all the marbles, with my family security on the line, would I gamble on getting a little bit more sympathy from the world that seems pretty unsympathetic, frankly? More UN resolutions against Israel than every country. That seems a little bit of a signal of where world opinion is coming from. Why would I gamble my family's life?
Sorry I didn't mean to unfull screen it, but gamble your family's life. He's making this up. He's putting this in the context of that. It's the same thing as AOC arguing for the Iron Dome as self-defense when these motherfuckers are bombing countries. They're bombing countries, then screaming self-defense. No, we need the Iron Dome to protect us from the guy you punched in the first place. Like that? Interesting. What's their excuse for Iran? Well, Hamas is Iran. So is Hezbollah. And so is the Houthis. They're all Iran. So we need to actually attack them because if they get a nuke, I'm telling you right now, expect the mushroom cloud in New York City. Expect that. This is embarrassingly bad. It's State Department talking points from some guy dressed as an indie, beat writer for Detroit. That's what this fucking loser looks like. And Dave's giving him the time for all this. Incredible. Hey, I will talk to anyone. And I understand talking to anyone. But if someone's trying to fuck with me, I'll call it out when I get that feeling. But yo, you fucking with me? I'll ask them that. It's not hard to do, Dave. You could do it. Hey man, instead of just knowing the game, right? Like, hey, man, listen, I know the game. You're going to be bullshit. You're going to pick a side. You're going to argue from that side no matter what, and yada, yada, yada. But it's like, this is not a game. It's not a match. It's like actual people are like being obliterated right now. That's the real circumstance, Dave. Please deal with it like that. Instead of trying to fucking win with a fucking robot. All right, here we go.
On whether some Westerners like me a little more.
Hey, man, is it wrong? Maybe you understand why they're doing it. Is it wrong by your standards? Is that wrong to do? When they blow up a baby, is that wrong? Yo, Dave, bring up particular scenarios. Is that wrong? Yo, Robot Coleman, is that wrong? Here's a video of a sniper hitting a child. Is that wrong? Should there be war crimes? Yo, you on your own private time, go find out who that is and make them famous on your show. Go do it. You know what? Go find some Hamas guys too. Find all the individual names of people doing cunty shit that you have evidence of and show everybody. Well, listen, man, sometimes kids don't put their toys away and they need to get sniped in the face. Do you want to step on Legos? Huh? Do you want to step on Legos in the middle of the night? You really want to do that? Thank God that kid got taken out. I want to see Fuckface make that argument. He can't. We know he can't. Here we go.
When the
fucking hate
consequence of a
everything, dude.
war with
I hate
an
everything.
independent West Bank could be catastrophic. And
Yeah.
so in every other situation, such as with Sudan, these things come in the form of peace treaties. They come in the form of peace treaties, not unilateral decisions, because that has the best chance of creating a stable peace. And you
I
can't have a
want to
peace
slap
treaty
the Starbucks out of this,
if
this
one of the
5 foot tall
belligerents-
dweeb's
because
hands,
for
bro.
ideological
I
reasons,
really do.
Can't agree to a peace treaty.
Okay, fine. But even if you're, look, again, I could put myself in the
I wanna
perspective of
scratch
that
his
Israeli. And
Camry.
sure, I can feel the weight. No, we're not
I
going to let him
understand
go
your
because I
pain,
have too many
Antifa.
security
I get
concerns.
it.
And then I can also put myself in the perspective of a Palestinian who goes,
get it.
oh, so it's the status quo and I just have
would
to watch
never
my
do
family
it,
get slaughtered.
but I
I'm going
get
to
it.
grab a gun and go kill everything that moves. You know? Yes, I can put myself in all of their perspectives. I'm not in any of their
you,
perspectives.
comfortable
I'm an
little shithead.
American who's the one who's forced to pay
Not
for this
Dave
whole
the other,
thing. So
the
to that
robot,
Israeli
Coleman.
who says, why do I care what an American thinks of me? Fine, don't care what an American thinks of me. Stop taking our money and support. Can I ask you, Coleman, like, honestly, what do you think would happen if America cut off all support for Israel? And I mean all support. I mean,
There we
when
go.
the rockets come...
Wait. Here we go. Listen, I don't like the money arguments, but ask him something very simple and basic. What do you think, Robot Coleman, about this scenario? Is this okay? He has to say no, I would think. I beg for questions like that to these pseudo-intellectuals. Ask them simple-ass fucking questions. Hey, man, what do you think about this? Oh, don't worry. I'm not even, like... Hey, listen. I just want you to say that so the audience hears what the fuck you're about to say. That's all. I'm pretty sure already. That's why I'm asking dumb, simple questions. That's where Dave should live at in regards to dealing with fools like this. If there's someone who's genuinely in support of Israel about these foreign policy things, like genuinely, then you engage with them genuinely, right? But if they're being full of shit like this motherfucker is, that's when you'd have to, like, actually, like, ask those simple ass questions to let him showcase where he's at morally, because at the back end of politics is the moral questions. That's where they live. Well, sorry. That's where they are present as well. They don't live. Morality is morality, right? In the backbone of a whole bunch of scenarios. But I'm saying, like, politically, a lot of the facade is pseudo-morality, bullshit packed next to it, and a hidden context of like actual morality in the background. Like, let's rip away all the dirt and bullshit and let's bring the actual morality to the table and ask questions from that perspective. Like, really ask from there. That's what people, I think, should be doing. Well, my opinion, right? That's where we should be living at. Hey, man, let me give you an exact scenario. Is this okay? Well, things that happen. Oh, he's full check, guys. Look at him. He's already scrambling and doing backflips. Look at that. But we'll see what happens. Here we go.
An American who's the one who's forced to pay for this whole thing. So to that Israeli who says, why do I care what an American thinks of me? Fine, don't care what an American thinks of me. Stop taking our money and support. Can I ask you, Coleman, like, honestly, what do you think would happen if America cut off all support for Israel? And I mean all support.
There's better questions,
when
but,
the rockets come flying at you want to bomb Iran, and then there's hundreds of rockets flying back at you, shoot them down yourself. We're not figuring that out for you. The billions of dollars that you get every year, you're not getting any of that anymore. The weapons that you get every year, you're not getting any of that anymore. The intelligence sharing, all of this stuff.
I don't have any problem with that.
No, well, what do you think would happen to Israel if America just didn't support them at all?
I'm not sure. I think
we're not vetoing resolutions at the UN for you.
Are you
anymore.
asking me? Or
yeah. No, I was just adding another element. We're not going to.
So say Coleman was like, "Yeah, let's cut off all aid to Israel." Then get him to say that. Like once again, I don't like the money arguments, but like go with that. But he's saying, "What will happen to Israel if we cut off the money?" Instead of putting him on trial, which I think is the thing that needs to be happening right now. Dave. There we go.
Veto resolutions at the UN. Like literally no support from America.
Get anything, guys?
My guess is what would happen is they would survive as a state. They'd figure it out, and they'd be in a less advantageous negotiating position, and the conflict would last a much longer time because the Palestinians would say, our strategy is working. The terrorism is working. Look, we got America to disengage. Full steam ahead, boys.
Wait. I thought it was Hamas. Now it's the Palestinians that are the terror. They're all the terrorists? Is that what you said? Just ask a simple IQ test. Like, hey, man, did you fuck up your words there? Ask simple questions. Hey, man, did you fuck your words up right there? And like, all Palestinians are terrorists? Or are you saying like, you messed your words up right there, right? Want to try again? Keep it dumb, because pseudo-intellectuals are dumber than dumb gets. It's a lot of masquerades and shit like that. It's not actually substance. That's why you ask something that of substance, but very simply, and watch them dance and backflip. But then again, I'm sorry, we're here for Dave Smith. I'll shut up now. Here we go.
A less advantageous negotiating position, and the conflict would last a much longer time because the Palestinians would say, our strategy is working. The terrorism is working. Look, we got America to disengage. Full steam ahead, boys.
So it would last a longer time? It's lasted since the creation of Israel so far.
No, I know, but look, Sudan was at war for 55 years, and then they had a peace treaty. Let's not act like this has no possible horizon of solution. I mean,
I agree. I agree with that.
My point is simply on the margin. If America disengages, Israel will survive. They'll figure it out. America didn't give them a penny in the 1948 war, and they won. And I'm not at all opposed to
ask him about his opinion about
stopping aid, but I think on balance that would send a signal to Hamas that the terrorism strategy is working. Exhibit A, we got America to disengage by the strategy, so let's keep on doing it. We're pushing in the right direction, which would have an effect to prolong the conflict, rather than by making it seem like they have more leverage in their own mind. So I don't think that would.
So rewarding, once again, if you give it a two-state solution, that would be rewarding Hamas as well. Here we go.
Necessarily be a good thing for all the people living there, but if that answer unreasonable?
Yeah, no, I think it's a reasonable answer. I was just curious, like, what your take is. I think Israel as it exists, like I think you're probably right. I think Israel probably survives, but I think that what you say as they would have a less advantageous negotiating position, I think means like they'd have to just make a deal. They'd have to finally make a deal and not be able to continue the status quo. Look, if you're gonna say,
well, what would the deal be
in that context?
I think the deal would be that
you mean like a two-state deal?
Something like that, ending the occupation, some type of compromise. I think if you're gonna say that which essentially, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm understanding your point correctly, you're going to say that, look, so your response to me is that, like, okay, yes, technically Israel could just stop occupying, but like Israel could just themselves retreat to 67 borders and stop occupying Palestinian territory, but it would be a better, more long-term peace if there was also a partner for peace who goes, okay, we're also on board with this deal and we make guarantees that we won't attack you and stuff like that. I can roughly, I think, accept that like, yeah, it would be better off if you had, but okay, so let's say I grant that you don't have that partner on the other side. So now the choice is between you ending the occupation or continuing this indefinitely. And I think that, like, for all the time we put ourselves in the Israeli perspectives, if you just for a second put yourself in the Palestinian perspective, you could see how unreasonable it is to expect them to accept that you got to stop first. Like, you can't ever violently resist, even though you're violently occupied by a brutal foreign army. Or in the case of Gaza, just having the destruction of the whole strip. I just think, like, out of those two options, one is so obviously preferable and morally superior to the other.
No, see, I actually disagree with this because, and this is good, that this is part of the crux of maybe my disagreement. So I'll give an analogy, and I hope it doesn't seem too glib, but I'm half Puerto Rican. Puerto Rican is the oldest.
You're full robot, my man.
Sorry?
No, so I just thought it'd be funny if you go, I'm half Puerto Rican. You go, I don't talk to Puerto Ricans, and I just left. Like, that was my line. No one told me. Sorry, go ahead.
His laugh looks
Okay,
like
so
fake
Puerto
as fuck
Rican,
too.
Puerto Rico is the oldest
Who is this fucking robot? This is not a real person. So Puerto Rico is my family heritage. This is not a real person. He's not real. I'm telling you right now, this guy's a fucking robot. He's a fucking robot. Look at this. Watch it.
Puerto Rican is the oldest. Sorry?
No, so I just thought it'd be funny if you go, I'm half Puerto Rican. You go, I don't talk to Puerto Ricans, and I just left. Like, that was my line. No one told me. Sorry,
Okay, so Puerto Rico is the oldest long-standing colony in the world.
You guys
they don't
tell
vote for
me.
president.
Right.
There was terrorism for a while, and then it went away.
Is this guy
and
real, bro? Is he AI?
Puerto
Is this
Rican
5 foot tall dweeb
independence
AI or not?
in the 1910s, America said no. And eventually, slowly, Puerto Ricans warmed up to the idea that actually, all things considered, it was better to have an American passport and American citizenship
Actually, he
than
does
it
kind of look Puerto
was
Rican.
to have
drawn on
independence.
facial hair.
Even though there's no lack of pride, there's no lack of, America like banned the Puerto Rican flag,
And he's 5 foot
in
tall.
the 1940s and 50s. Like, there was no lack of
Right.
boot on the throat in the colonizing, but there was a decision made after a certain point that actually, you know what? Shit, we're doing better than
sorry for being
Cuba.
racist,
We're
guys.
doing better
It's
than
just
Dominican
jokes.
Republic. Matter of fact, we're doing better than every island in the Caribbean. And the bread and butter kitchen table issue, we're never going to get attacked because we've got a military base here, even though the military base was also like giving some of them cancer. So again, these are the trade-offs that real people living through real history make. Forget independence. We'll screw it. We'll be a colony and we'll call it a commonwealth to kind of swallow our pride a little bit. But that's why I'm in front of you today. That's why my grandparents were able to even move to this country.
Do I need to say anything? By the way, that is a Jared Taylor argument he just made. By the way. Well, okay, partially. He's not finished with his point yet, but that first portion is Jared Taylor. Look how they're living in Africa. See, look, they have Nintendo Wii's and PlayStations. Would they have that there without colonization? Huh? Oh, what do you think? It's actually Jared Taylor. That first portion 100% is. But we'll see. Okay, I'll play. Here we go.
Screw it. We'll be a colony and we'll call it a commonwealth to
Iran
kind of
part,
swallow our pride a little bit. But that's why I'm in front of you today. That's why my grandparents were able to.
Thank God for
even move to this
slavery.
country.
Otherwise, you wouldn't be playing
And so,
Xbox, would you, Jordan?
If I'm thinking, what would I think if I lived right now in the West Bank? And obviously, far be it for me or you to truly speculate what folks over there are thinking. But
There's an Oscar documentary showing how they're living, and I think you can make a guess from there. But let's leave it up to a magical theory that doesn't exist in our realities at all. Here we go.
What would I think if I lived right now in the West Bank? And obviously,
what?
far be it from me or you to truly speculate what folks over there are thinking. But insofar as I could put myself in anyone's shoes, I would think that, hey, I'm looking at my co-ethnic Palestinians in Gaza. I'm looking at people living in South Lebanon, and I'm saying, well, yeah, we don't have our independence. We don't have pride without getting the Israeli boot off of our throat. But all things considered, the situation I'm in right now is one of humiliation, but no war relative to Gaza. If Israel withdraws, I know very well Hamas it's going to be a civil war. It's going to be a civil war where I live that could kill me or my children.
Oh my God.
There's pretty solid odds that it would become a war with Israel. And so you have like a forced choice between two dog shit alternatives. And it would not surprise me one bit if Palestinians in the West Bank took the opposite side of that choice that you're assuming they would take.
Okay, so give them the choice then.
Because that is the choice that Puerto Ricans made in the longest standing colony in the world. You know what I mean? So that's why I use that example.
Yeah, I understand your point. And so, like, yeah, if you want to, like, if there was an occupation, if you want to call that, exactly, I don't know if you call it an occupation of Puerto Rico, but if there was an occupation that was not brutal, and that increased the standard of living amongst the people, like, yeah, there probably would be less resistance to it. But if you're going to say that, like, the people in the West Bank might choose to live under Israeli occupation, like, okay, let's give them that choice. I don't think they're going to.
Not choose on a menu of great alternatives. Choose between a forced choice and civil war.
I'm saying, yes, but you've baked your
set the standards.
Conclusion, into that. Like, it's not a guarantee that this would be a civil war.
But Dave, isn't that disgusting what he just did? Isn't that gross? Instead, Dave's chasing his navel around like, let me argue with the merits of what he's saying. He's been jerking you around the entire fucking video, dude. No pause again. I made fun of, like, I think I said that earlier in the video. I think I did. About, like, kind of like the Jared Taylor solution. Well, if there's no Palestinians, there's no occupation. Is there? Huh? How can you occupy someone who's not there? Think about it. Do you want this nice occupation or do you want the mean one? Which one do you want? Because if we stop occupying you, you're going to get the bad version. Oh my God. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. That's the argument he just gave to Dave, and Dave's accepting it as something to argue against. Like, excuse me, sir? There are ways to handle it. Like, there's very dumb guy logic ways to handle that. If some new government comes into Israel, like, listen, what those guys were doing was fucked up, and we all know it. And once again, like, talking to Palestinians directly. Hey, guys, what these guys were doing over there, fuck those guys. Things are about to change. They'll be very fair. I want to, like, pick out your best leaders, have them come talk to me. Let's figure something out. Because what happened to you guys is not right. It's not right. It's very simple. Holy Christ, but either it's occupied with happy sunshine land because you're occupied by a benevolent force called the Israeli military, or full-scale civil war. Everyone dies, everyone gets bombed, and when they're done, they target Israel. That was Fuckface's narrative. He just took his own actual heritage and used it. He can't believe. He's like, well, Puerto Rico was, things could be worse. Think about it. No one bombs us, right? Because we're occupied by the U.S. military, so no one's going to bomb us. It's kind of a win, isn't it? We kind of won. He just did that, and Dave didn't flinch when he heard it. Maybe I'm hearing things, but I swear to God, I just heard that. I am wrecked. Whatever. Okay, here we go. I'm sure they're going to move on to Iran. More wreckage. Here we go. This is a marathon
Why don't
video.
we give them a choice? Why don't we hold a referendum? Would you like to be an independent state?
By the way, Dave called his discussion with Alex Borenstein. I forgot his fucking name, bro. Called that a struggle session. What the fuck am I looking at, Dave? Come on, man. Come on, dude. Here we go.
Into that, it's not a guarantee that this would be a civil war. Why don't we give them a choice? Why don't we hold a referendum? Would you like to be an independent state, or would you like to remain militarily occupied by Israel? And if you suspect that maybe they would vote remaining occupied, I'd happily eat crow on that if the referendum came back in your favor, but it won't. It will come back overwhelmingly that they want to be independent.
Fair, but democracies make terrible decisions all the time. So,
amen, brother. We can agree on that.
Last topic before we wrap. I have to wrap.
Can't give them democracy
within the next 10 minutes. I'm told. Otherwise, I would go for longer. Maybe we'll do it again at another point.
Absolutely.
I just want to get you on Iran. So what is your argument against, because a lot of, you're an anti-war guy, which I get. You're against civilian casualties, which I really get.
You're against war. I get. It's do you get it? Does a bomb need to go up outside your house to be it's I can't stand little pussy cowards like this, little robotic cowards. Sorry, my bad. Here we go.
You on Iran. So what is your argument against, because a lot of, you're an anti-war guy, which I get. You're against civilian casualties, which I really get. But then we have an example where we bomb Iran's nuclear facility, prevent this regime from getting nukes, which I would think an anti-war guy would be totally for, with no casualties that I have seen reported, 0 casualties, and yet you still seem to be against it. So what's your...
First of all, that's not necessarily true. We don't know anything yet. Second of all, you can do that without bombing them. Yeah, I'm against civilian casualties. I'm really, really, look at my eyebrows. I'm really, really against it. So you bomb a random place? Is that okay? Is that okay? If you're really against killing civilians, you wouldn't be so willy-nilly about that, right? Were they about to launch a nuke that day or something? I can't believe this guy would consider himself on the left, if you will, and he's arguing for Donald Trump's fucking plan in regards to Iran. This is so ass backwards. Okay, whatever. You guys probably already know where I'm at with this, but here we go.
Which I would think an anti-war guy would be totally for, with no casualties that I have seen reported, 0 casualties, and yet you still seem to be against it. So what's your view on that?
Well, there weren't 0 casualties in what's now being called the 12-day war. I think you're referring to the American bombings.
Correct.
The bunker buster bombings had 0 casualties, but there were Iranian and Israeli casualties in that war, which is tragic. I think we've lived through such a period of catastrophic wars that it's almost that. I don't know. That's just not thought of as very meaningful because the numbers weren't alarmingly high. But
before Dave goes, once again, this is more of a point and less shit talking. If this guy is actually considered on the left, kind of the neoliberal mainstream Barry Weiss style left wing style thing, I think this is kind of some evidence suggesting that Kamala Harris would have also bombed Iran. Because a lot of people were like, yo, Kamala wouldn't have done any of this thing. She wouldn't have done that or this or that. I'm not so sure about that. And if this guy's from the neoliberal mainstream left, not saying he is, I don't know. or if Barry Weiss is, right? Who knows? I'm just saying this could be a hint of what those people might have done in office, meaning you get fucked either way. Congratulations, America. You felt like you had a choice, but you actually didn't. Congratulations. Or actually, in reality, you do, but said you followed someone else. All right, here we go.
Yeah, and there's real people and real family members who lost
But you
people
were
they
against
loved over
specifically
that.
the strike on the nuclear facilities
Sure,
that had
sure,
no
sure.
casualties. That's what I'm asking you.
Sure. But I mean, look, the thing happened in the
dumb way to
context
look at
of this 12-day war. So, but specifically about the strikes on the nuclear facilities, I mean, look, it does not. Joseph Stalin
Come on, Dave.
developed nuclear weapons, and America knew that he was developing them. Mao Zedong, the worst man who's ever lived, developed nuclear weapons, and America knew they were developing.
Man
we didn't launch an aggressive
who's ever
preemptive
lived.
war over it. And so, no, I don't think it would. And the other thing is that, first of all, Iran had not developed nuclear weapons, and they were at the negotiating table. And so you've got them at the negotiating table, specifically negotiating. Everybody was making such a big deal out of this 60% enriched uranium. They weren't enriching up to that percentage until Obama walked away from the JCPOA. It was.
He meant when Trump walked away, but he knows that. He just fucked his words up. He fucked his words up. He knows that. Trump's the one that walked away from that. And it actually took them years before they actually developed up to 60% enrichment, which, as of recent reports, I think they're still at. And they basically said, fuck the IAEA. Fuck those guys. And I think one of the heads of that, actually, of the IAEA, actually had their phone hacked. The camera on their phone hacked by Israel, allegedly. There's a lot of story to this that Dave should. I mean, he should have them, right? He's, antiwar.com guy, right? He should have that shit. I'm very sure they reported it. Well, at the very least, Dave DeCamp reported these things, along with other outlets. But okay, here we go.
First of all, Iran had not developed nuclear weapons, and they were at the negotiating table. And so you've got them at the negotiating table, specifically negotiating. Everybody was making such a big deal out of this 60% enriched uranium. They weren't enriching up to that percentage until Obama walked away from the JCPOA. They were at the negotiating table, specifically negotiating, getting back into that deal, which we already know the Iranians agreed to just a few years ago, right? Or I guess I'm old, a little more than a few years ago, but back in the Obama administration. And so, no, the obvious move there was to pursue this diplomatic strategy, and we could have avoided a nuclear Iran without having to go to war. And my argument at the time, and I think my argument continues to be, well, first of all, we really don't know whether we're at halftime of this thing. It certainly, every comment from Benjamin Netanyahu about it so far has left the door wide open. And in fact, when he was on, I believe it was when he was being interviewed by Patrick Bet-David.
What did he say?
He was not talking about how like the first day, it's so weird the way the war stuff works. But after the first Israeli strike, the Israeli government and all the pro-Israeli people on Twitter are bragging about how Israel just totally dismantled Iran's nuclear program, and they didn't even need American help. Then 2 days later, it's we actually need these bunker busters. Then everybody's bragging about how they've been totally decimated their nuclear program. As soon as Benjamin Netanyahu was on Patrick Bet-David, it's a few weeks after the thing. Then he's like, oh no, they're still developing intercontinental ballistic missiles. Their nuclear program is they're still going to get that up and running. He started talking about how they can strike Florida, which I've never heard anyone claim, but okay.
Dave, you have the idea, you have the blatant story where Netanyahu says, yeah, we didn't actually get their nuclear, we didn't actually get it. And we knew, according to Netanyahu, we knew that. We knew when we were striking, we knew we wouldn't actually get to the nuclear material stuff and blow it up. Meaning, that's basically implying, A, let's go back to war, and B, they lied to us when they were saying they did, right? When Trump says, we obliterated the nuclear capabilities of Iran, they were lying when they said that. And I guess Netanyahu confirmed that. I mean, who knows? He could be lying for some other reason, but I'm just saying, like, that's what's stated, as in Iran is now back on the you guys might have nukes table, which apparently just leads to war inevitably, and Robot Coleman's all with it. This is planet Earth. Here we go.
So who knows what's going to come of this? You know, like this might still turn into something really bad.
Can I say something?
But let me just, this will be my last point on it. But my argument was always that you really risk catastrophe every time you do one of these things. You know, these wars can escalate very easily. And what happened was Iran, for obvious self-preservation interests, essentially gave like advance notice and made sure that no Americans were killed in their retaliation. If they had not done that, I think there's really no question. Like if they had killed, which every military expert I've heard talk about this has always said, Iran has the capability of touching American military bases all over the region. If they had done that, I think Trump would have at that point had no choice but to respond with a much bigger response. And this could have spiraled into a regime change, which going back to the beginning portion of the show is something that I believe that a whole lot of powerful people, including neoconservatives and Benjamin Netanyahu, have wanted in that country for quite a long time.
Okay.
There was your, like, Dave has so many moments of like simple dumb guy logic you can ask to put him, like, to make him answer these things. But hey, man, if someone struck a random facility in Washington, D.C., what do you think? Like, would you support the response back to them? Like, if they went over and just blew them up, would you support the response? I think this fuckface would say yes. Well, the U.S. bombed a random facility in Iran, and Iran did not strike back. They didn't truly strike back. They did. They shot some things in the air and hit some things, but they made sure everyone evacuated and made sure everything's okay. Maybe the U.S. did the same. I'll be fair. But hey, guys, evacuate your nuclear facility because we're gonna blow this shit up. Although I don't think they actually got their nuclear facility personally. I didn't think that on that day, and now you have officials saying it now. But either way, it's like Iran could have struck and killed people, but this guy's like, well, no one died though. It wasn't by accident that happened. If either side wanted to kill people, they could have. Thus begs the question of what are we doing? Why are we doing these show games for? What is that for? But fuckface robot is 5 foot tall. Fuckface is not going to answer or ask those questions. Apparently Dave won't either, but here we go.
Neoconservatives and Benjamin Netanyahu have wanted in that country for quite a long time.
Okay. I do find it interesting that 3 or 4 times during this conversation, you have dismissed my arguments as counterfactuals that didn't actually happen or projections into the future that are speculative. Yet your argument against Iran is a counterfactual could have been a lot worse if they had done this, if they had zigged instead of zagged.
Counterfactual.
And speculative into the future, it could get a lot worse. So that I think that's an inconsistency in your case. But I'd like to ask you a question. I mean, like we.
The writers are telling me things in my ears. Let's try that again. Here we go.
Or projections into the future that are speculative. Yet your argument against Iran is a counterfactual could have been a lot worse if they had done this, if they had zigged instead of zagged, and speculative into the future, it could get a lot worse. So that I think that's an inconsistency in your case. But I'd like to ask you a question. I mean, like we can argue till the cows come home about whether is Iran negotiating in good faith or are they not. But how I think as like a
the U.S.
Bayesian
is negotiating with them.
We've got 20 countries or so in the history of the world that have enriched uranium to various percentages for various different purposes, right? So if we're trying to divine Iran's intentions, can you name me a single country in the history of nuclear proliferation that has enriched kilograms of uranium to 60% and then not gone on to create a bomb? And if you can answer that for me, I'm on your side of this.
It's a trick question, Dave. Like, How are you not realizing someone's a little fucking liar in front of your face? Dave's going to answer the question, isn't he? He's going to try to answer it. See, if you try to prove, like, are you full of shit from, like, if you ask that from the very beginning, these questions, I'm like, oh, you're trying to set me up. Got it. Let's roll with your setup question. He's like, hopefully did that, bro. He's probably got motherfuckers in his fucking earlobes right now talking, like, yo, ask this. Ask this question. Like, I'd almost guarantee it, this fucking little chat GPT fuckface is probably listening to people telling him what to say. But don't worry about it. I'm some guy on YouTube. Here we go.
Okay, well, I don't know the answer to that
answer
off the top
is
of my head.
0.
Yeah, okay, so
So
you
you're
got
at-
me on that.
There's no
Okay, I'm not-
charisma.
Basically, you're
just
asking me to believe
the
that
answer
something which has
is
never happened before in the history of nuclear
Mother.
proliferation is being done right now in Iran by the same regime that supports Hezbollah that used to fly parades with mushroom clouds. And I say to you,
Yeah.
like, I wasn't born yesterday. I don't buy it. There's nothing in the history
This fool got no charisma, by the way. He is a actual automaton. Anyways, here we go.
of geopolitics and nuclear proliferation that leads me to your faith in that they are negotiating in good faith. Not
Yeah,
to
I
mention
don't-
the
I
fact
wouldn't-
that the international body, whose job it is to keep tabs on this, formally condemned them last year and just before the war
I'm going
and
to get
over and
copyrighted
over
for
and
this.
over again.
You watch.
Okay, so I
He's too
have
robotic.
zero faith in the Iranian regime, and none of my arguments are based off of faith. In fact, I think I had a lot less faith in the regime, and that's why I was concerned that they would strike back and touch Americans after this.
Dave does this a lot. Once again, I'm sorry for pausing the genius Dave Smith so much and his robotic counterpart here, but I have to say these things, dude. It's like Dave, a bad faith question or argument is sent at Dave, and he accepts the terms of the bad faith aspect of the argument itself. It's like, listen, I don't like Iran. Iran's bad. I don't like Iran. It's like, fuck that premise. He's saying that for a reason, Dave. Not to be real about how he actually feels about Iran, but because it is scripted to say so. Duh. And Dave falls for it every fucking time. He'll get mad at me for not calling Dave some sort of master debater. I say that. Whatever. All right, let's continue.
But or kill Americans, I should say. As far as your first point, it's like, yes, I guess it is true that, like, I criticize some of your points for being unfalsifiable hypotheticals or
He's back
counterfactuals
to
rather.
defending
But
himself. Fuck it.
I don't know. It's a little different to say that, like, oh, if America pulled back, then China takes over the world or something like that, than to say, like, hey, look, there was this Iranian response that was very obviously intentionally designed so that it wouldn't escalate the war, that it wouldn't kill Americans and then get their regime overthrown. I think to say, imagine they didn't do that, things could be worse, is not that crazy of a counterfactual. So I guess to my argument is not that counterfactuals may never, ever once be uttered. I'm just saying that, like, I don't know, there's kind of a lot of times you can make
Right, Dave.
wild
Defend
assumptions
your
off
honor.
unfalsifiable counterfactuals.
it.
And then other times there are counterfactuals that are like, hey, just imagine they did this instead of that. This thing could have gotten a lot worse. Again, to the point, none of this is happening in a vacuum. And the fact is that you can't ignore the fact that after 9/11, George W. Bush puts Iran on the axis of evil list, even though they had absolutely nothing to do with 9/11, and then invades their two next door neighbor countries and destroys them. Okay, like, that is a big part of what's at play here in the Iranian.
Is this the clean break part? I was going to actually look for that. But also Palestinians as well. They were also put on the list because if anyone remembers, well, I don't remember. I saw it in video after the fact where they showed Palestinians celebrating 9/11. But in reality, someone had a camera, gave them like food or candy or some shit like that. Like, not like they weren't in like the starved state they're in right now. It's more of just like, oh, you gave me some cool shit, awesome, and they're like smiling and giggling and laughing without even knowing 9/11's even happening at all. But don't worry, Fox News found the footage and showed every American, hey, America, look what they're celebrating. See that? They hate you. Meanwhile, it was actually them in a different context, different scenario. But you know what? Who cares? I'm sure Dave would be like, hey, those guys, I disagree with those guys. When you should probably be like, are you fucking lying to us? Get it now? Or whatever. Here we go.
Mindset. And so it's not crazy that as a response to this, both
Mistranslating
North
Iranian
Korea and
presidents.
Iran have been
Yeah.
looking for a nuke. I mean, or flirting with the idea of
So they're
nuclearizing,
looking for
or
a
at
nuke.
least, well, I would say certainly. Look, I'm not even like certainly letting the world know that we could go nuclear. We have that option. Like that is clearly what Iran has been doing this whole time. The point is that I'm not having faith in the Iranian regime. I'm saying that they were in negotiations. They
You
had
leave room
already
for-
agreed to the JCPOA under Obama and had drastically lowered or they had their enrichment levels were drastically lower than they are now, and they're at the negotiation.
They promised to not. I don't think they brought down their enriched uranium levels. I think they weren't even there in the first place. And they took that deal to be like, all right, let's keep it here. Pretty simple, but all right, here we go.
Is clearly
Or
what
maybe it
Iran
was
has been
8,000.
doing this whole time.
8,000%
The
enriched.
point is that I'm not having faith in the Iranian regime. I'm saying that they were in negotiations. They had already agreed to the JCPOA under Obama and had drastically lowered or they had their enrichment levels were drastically lower than they are now, and they're at the negotiating table. Negotiations hadn't even fallen apart. They had another meeting scheduled for like within the next 24 or 48 hours when Israel first attacked them. So if the big concern is if which we all forget whether you call yourself anti-war or not, everybody ought to be anti-war as their default position. Like you ought to try to avoid a war if it's possible. If the concern is they're going nuclear,
Aaron is full of
is
breed,
that you
by
think
the
they're
way.
going to develop nuclear weapons, they're at the negotiating table
Not
right
Dave, the
now.
other guy.
And I got to say, I also just find, which, you know, it was a little bit weird because there were kind of like mixed signals out of the Trump administration. You know, there was different reporting about exactly what happened, but Donald Trump essentially said that, like, yeah, we used the negotiations as a ruse to let Israel go launch this strike when they wouldn't suspect it. And I do just find that to be disgustingly dishonorable for the way you would want your country to act. No, there's again, I'm not relying on a
Ask him if
crazy,
he agrees.
unfalsifiable counterfactual. I'm saying that launching a war can turn into a catastrophe. We've seen that 7 times in the last 25 years, and this was a dangerous move to do against a country that did not have nuclear weapons, that according at least to the annual threat assessment from earlier in the year had not even made the political decision to acquire nuclear weapons, and was at the
Can't say Tulsi
negotiating
Gabbard.
table
Got it.
negotiating this issue, negotiating the level of enriched uranium. It was a crazy move to me to just launch a war in that situation. And it should also be pointed out that Israel, after America dropped those bunker bombs, Israel just started bombing regime targets. It had nothing to do with their nuclear capabilities. And also Israel called up and threatened all the generals and their families.
point.
Like, it did sure seem like they were hoping to get a regime change there. And maybe I'd ask you this. Like, do you think
Before he goes, they launched it like yeah, we're gonna win this thing. We're gonna have a stronghold. They had their spies come out. They had guys who were ratting, you know, on behalf of Israel. They caught those, like, yeah, this guy's been working for us the whole time. He's been pointing out, like, you know, generals' fucking apartment buildings or their wives or their girlfriends' houses, and they did like a launch party almost of, yeah, we're about to fuck them up, and then Iran fired back, and then things kind of changed a bit, and then Trump comes out, he's like, all right, listen, you guys need to stop now, stop it, which made me think, yeah. They didn't know what Iran had, I don't think, is my guess. I don't think they fucking, like, actually knew what Iran had. And with the help of the U.S., they had to shut the thing down. But maybe now they know. So thus, maybe it was like a deke to, like, get them to come out of their face attacking. And it's like, all right, now we know what they have. We'll wait and then start up again. But first, let's take care of this Gaza thing. because we don't want to be getting bombed, which allows any army, like any ground force, to encroach. Right? I'm just saying geopolitically, like what it could possibly be. I can't say I know, but all right, here we go.
Do you think if Netanyahu had his way, which again actually kind of proves your point from earlier in a sense that I agree with, that I do think people who like on broadly speaking my side of this issue overstate the case a lot. It's not that Israel owns our government or has full control. I know that's not true for a fact because I know we would have overthrown the regime in Iran if Netanyahu had full control of our government. But like if Donald Trump, remember he had that vague tweet about regime change in the middle of the war. Let's say he had just gone all in and said, you know what, we're overthrowing the regime there. Do you think Netanyahu would have gone along with that? You think he would have been happy? I sure do.
Presumably.
And so I think there are a lot of people.
But what's the point?
The point is that there are a lot of people, powerful people, who would be quite happy to see America get bogged down in yet another regime change catastrophe in the Middle East. And I'm against that passionately.
Yeah, okay. So we're going, I don't want to go in circles. Dave Smith, thank you for doing this. Maybe we'll do this again.
Good. I want to see the clip that went viral, right? Which is the clean break thing. Then I'm done with this. That's right here. Did I hear this already? I don't think so. Where's that?
In their own words, they have deep loyalty to Israel. Every last one of them has said in their own words that they have a deep commitment toward Israel. They're writing all of their policy papers through the 1990s on how we have to overthrow the government in Iraq as part of this clean break strategy on behalf of Israel. And then they are all of George W. Bush's men. Literally, once the towers come down, George W. Bush is in the White House. It's a project for a new American century, all down his staff, from his defense secretary, his vice president, and all of their men. They're at the State Department, the Defense Department. And so it is not going out on a limb to say, yeah, this war doesn't happen without the neoconservatives. And I think John Mearsheimer very reasonably puts them as part of the Israel lobby. All you have to do is read their own words. It's not like I'm putting together some conspiracy. By the way, I love that Mearsheimer points out in that book, because I do think there's a real interesting point to make, that he's not saying it was a Jewish war. Like the Jewish people in America actually opposed the war in Iraq much more so than just about any other group. I think the polling data was they were way out ahead against the war in Iraq. I forget the exact numbers.
Yes,
but yeah, there's no question that, call it whatever you want to. I mean, like they would basically through the 90s self-identify as the American version of the Likudnik party, but whatever you want to call it, these group of people who have in their own words admitted they have like profound loyalty and connection to Israel, pushed for this war, and they had written in their own words that a huge part of it was because this was the strategy to help Israel.
None of this is true, Dave. Okay, so let's look at
it is. It's all true.
Let's look at their own words. Project for a New American Century is founded in 1998. If you go to their archive online, you can find the earliest thing written about Iraq by a member. The earliest thing.
By the way, this guy has the earpiece where they're telling him, and he has producers in the background showing things to him. He's probably reading Wikipedia right now, or the website, or whatever the fuck. Probably.
Thing is written by John Bolton, 1997. Here's the first sentence of the earliest thing written on the PNAC archive. You might think the United Nations would want to punish Saddam Hussein for disrupting and nearly killing the UN's own efforts to eliminate Iraq's weapons of mass destruction. Instead, the UN Security Council effectively rewarded him. The next year, when the PNAC is actually founded, as you know, they write a letter to Bill Clinton. Now, this is the first time that PNAC, the neocons, call for the ouster of Saddam Hussein, right, publicly.
No, this is the first time the Project for a New American Century called for him. It's not the first time the neocons have publicly called for him. Right, but it's not. No, you said the neocons. It's not the first time the neocons had called for it publicly.
Correct. We'll get to that. Apologies. So the first time PNAC calls for the ouster of Saddam Hussein in 98, they write a letter to Bill Clinton
Take a
The
fucking hint.
entire letter is about
Guys.
the fact that Saddam has WMDs or is pursuing WMD, and we can't let it happen. And this is how the letter ends. We urge you to act decisively. If you act now to end the threat of weapons of mass destruction against the U.S. or its allies, you will be acting in the most fundamental national security interests of the country. If we accept a la 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 la. Okay. So Israel is mentioned once in that letter.
If we accepted LA.
And it's grouped in with all of our other allies in the region. It's like they say, also, this will be good for Israel and Jordan and our other allies in the region. So PNAC, this idea that the Project for a New American Century, that you and I both agree is a good bellwether for the neocons, was not using the WMD argument. It was their main argument. It was almost their only argument long before Iraq. Now let's get to this clean break.
No, but this is just, wait, hold on, but Coleman, this is just not right. I mean, you've read A Clean Break, a new strategy for securing the realm and coping with crumbling states.
That wasn't about U.S. foreign policy. That was a recommendation for Israeli foreign
Are
policy.
these motherfuckers from Middle Earth securing the realm? Oh god, these fucking dweeby losers run our fucking governments and shit like that, bro. I can't believe it. Not only that, they run our fucking entertainment too. And our fucking politics, the way these guys talk, like I'm telling you, dude, it's so fucking weird. These losers are at the head of these things. You should be nowhere near it. Nowhere fucking near it. But somehow, the same personality types just keep popping up left and right, over and over again. The realm. Shut up. Shut the fuck up. Here we go. Shout out to Edley. There we go.
You've read A Clean Break, a new strategy for securing the realm and coping with crumbling states.
That
Securing
wasn't
the
about
realm.
U.S. foreign
Shut
policy.
up.
That was a recommendation for Israeli foreign policy.
Yes, okay, but you're saying they talk openly about wanting to overthrow Saddam Hussein for the clean break strategy. Like, so, okay, like, yes, in the letter to Bill Clinton, they didn't say that, but they had written openly about this.
No,
it's the
no,
entire
this is
strategy
also-
that they laid out.
guy's
And we
the
also
earpiece,
have a
for sure.
four-star
100%,
general
I
who's
believe it.
on record saying that he saw these plans, that they
We'll
were
get
going
to
to
the
go
four-star
overthrow
general.
all of these governments.
Let's deal with one at a time. The Clean
Sure,
Break Memo.
sure.
The Clean Break Memo, written by Richard Pearl, Douglas Faith, all these neocons,
David Wormser. I
David
think.
Wormser. In
This guy has a screen with information on it and an earpiece giving him information. That is officially my stance right now. I mean, this is worth it, I think, of looking back at this. And I've been noticing the eye movements and looking down, all that shit, which could be just normal, like, kind of like, oh, I'm on camera mannerisms, right? I smell like, forgive me for my intuition. I think this guy is actually reading something that's being put up on screen as he's talking, a la Jackson Hinkle and Vosh debate. Or he has an earpiece in telling him things. I actually believe that at this point. But I could be wrong. Either way, let's keep playing. Show your monitor, bro. You wall hacking, bro. All right, here we go.
On record saying that he saw these plans, that they
We'll
were
get
going to
to the
go
four-star
overthrow
general.
all of these governments.
Let's deal with one at a time. The Clean
Sure,
Break Memo.
sure.
The Clean Break Memo, written by Richard Pearl, Douglas Faith, all these neocons,
David Wormser. I
David
think.
Wormser. In
That's
1996,
whatever.
it is a recommendation to Israel, to the Likud, to Benjamin Netanyahu, to say, here are some things we think that Israel should prioritize. It is not a recommendation about what American foreign policy should prioritize. That's the first thing to note. The second thing to note is that when that paper advocates overthrowing Saddam, the point of overthrowing Saddam was to replace him with a Hashemite monarch that would be friendly to Israel, like Jordan is friendly
Right.
to Israel. That's the whole point. The point of deposing Saddam was not to replace it with a democracy. That is nowhere in the Clean Break Memo. So
That's
question
true.
for you, if the Clean Break Memo was some kind of blueprint, why didn't we even make an attempt to replace Saddam with a Hashemite monarchy?
Oh yeah, I mean that's a good point. I think the whole thing fell apart.
Life
right?
is
I mean, like
messy.
you know,
No,
I'd
but
have
we
to
never
go
even
like,
contemplated it. We never even floated the idea. So
well, no,
how,
that's not.
how
You
could it
don't
be
fucking
therefore
know
true
that.
that the Clean Break
I mean,
Memo is some
Half
kind of
Puerto
blueprint?
Rican.
Well, Chalabi
5 foot
was
tall,
like Judith Miller's
Middle
big
Earth.
source on the whole thing, right? I think that a lot of the neocons seem to really believe that that was going to be what happened, and that's not what happened after they invaded the country. But Coleman, I mean, like you're sitting here saying like, okay, so these people are like, they're writing to Benjamin Netanyahu saying, here's the strategy for a clean break to get away from the peace process so you don't have to give up a Palestinian state and you can keep the status quo going. And so what we think you ought to do for that is overthrow this guy Saddam Hussein. And then you have them advocating for overthrowing Saddam Hussein for years more after that. Then they actually get into power and they do the thing. And we're supposed to pretend like that there's no connection there. I'm not like connecting wild dots. I'm saying like they said this is what their interest was. This is why they wanted it done, and then they did the thing.
No, that's not true. I mean,
it is.
It's not true because Richard Pearl was not saying what America should do. He was saying what he thought Israel should do. What we ended up doing was not what was in the clean break memo. Your whole argument is that what we ended up doing was what was in this memo. It's not true. We deposed Saddam, and nowhere in the clean break memo does it say make Iraq a democracy. No Israeli Likud member would think you can make Iraq a democracy. They thought that notion was ridiculous. So what we ended up doing had nothing to do with what Richard Pearl recommended and everything to do with what George Bush thought would make sense. And you could be totally critical of that idea.
It's a mix of all of that.
But you cannot argue that what we did the clean break memo. That's just factually incorrect.
No.
And then everything else Panak is saying, their entire argument is WMD. You don't find Israel there.
Coleman, this is like if I point to General Wesley Clark saying we're going to overthrow 7 governments in the next 5 years and that decision's being made. And then you say, yeah, dude, but we didn't overthrow. It took us like 15, 20 years to do that. Like, yes, of course. Obviously, George W. Bush and Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld and, Condoleezza Rice or Colin Powell at the time. Obviously, all these guys had influence on this too. And so I'm not claiming that the piece of paper came to life and everything that was on it magically happened after that. It's still a pretty important paper to look at. And this was written by people who were in positions of substantial power when the time came due. And so, yes, you're right. The spreading democracy to Iraq, which it seemed to, at least in George W. Bush's estimation, be an essential selling point to the war. You're right. That wasn't in the paper and that got added later. But I think it's still pretty relevant.
That's kind of half the enchilada. Let's talk about this.
No, it's, I don't see. Okay.
Let's talk about.
No, you have room there, Dave. Just bring it. Like, listen, it's showcasing the characters that we're dealing with. So whether it's clean break papers or the actual WMD story or invading Iraq or invading Lithuania, for all we know. Either way, we're getting an understanding of the characters we're dealing with. Speaking of that, how about your character, Robot Coleman? Name's Coleman, by the way. Fucking, no offense to people named Coleman, but like, don't let this guy be like your most famous representative, okay? Like Gary, it was his last name, okay? It's not his first name. So please, any Colemans in the world, please don't let this fool represent you in any form or fashion, by the way. But either way, like, Dave, please bring it. Like, again, I'm repeating myself for the 10,000th time. Make it dumb guy logic. Like, hey, man, well, that could showcase some of the character that we're dealing with here. Of whoever was involved, right? Whether it's Feith or Rumsfeld or anyone in that administration, right? Wolfowitz, whoever. It's showcasing characters and what they're capable of thinking of to do it, like thinking of doing in some form or fashion. That should be a warning, like, hey, man, maybe their plans will go exactly the way they write it on paper, but it means they're thinking about that. That's a problem, is it not? Robot Coleman, is that not a problem? Come on, dude. But all right, and maybe Dave's so satisfied with his audience, but like, yeah, Dave won. Maybe he's okay with that. Me personally, I'm not. I see a full shit artist, bro. I want to fucking go at them for being full of shit. Yeah. Anyways, here we go.
Talk about this Wesley Clark memo that he never saw. Okay, so 4-star General Wesley Clark.
He never saw it?
Yeah, he says so in the C-SPAN interview. You don't remember this? He's
Yes,
talking about
I've been
it.
watching
He says,
Pawn
he's
Stars.
got-
Okay?
he says, I'm
Secret.
talking to the Joint Chiefs
Oh,
of
yeah,
Staff.
yeah. He says he handed him the paper and he was like, all right, all right.
No, no,
all
it's
right.
It's entertaining to me,
Do
okay?
not
I'm
show
old.
this to me. I don't want to be on the
Christ.
hook for seeing classified info.
Yeah, I
And
think
he-
it was, you're talking about the interview with Amy Goodman on Democracy Now!,
There's
right?
Yes.
Yes.
So the memo that Wesley Clark never saw. Okay. It said, according
This is the
to
part.
his hearsay, and it would be dismissed in a court as hearsay, that
Means nothing.
we're going to overthrow 7 countries in 5 years: is Iraq, then Syria, then Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Iran. So the first thing I want to say about this is that Pentagon memos in the Bush White House were called snowflakes because they came so often and they piled up on your desk. And let me read to you from the Washington Post at the time. Rumsfeld, whose sometimes abrasive approach often alienated other cabinet members, produced 20 to 60 snowflakes, these memos, snowflakes a day, 20 to 60 a day. Regularly poured out his thoughts in writing as the basis for developing policy. And
It's baby
Rumsfeld's aide, Keith Urban, which is a funny name, estimated that he wrote
Countryside.
20,000 memos during his time in the George W. Bush White House. And then we have from National Security Counterterrorism Advisor Richard Clark, who was in the room. He was close with Condoleezza Rice, National Security. He says, from time to time, Condoleezza Rice would show Clark notes sent by the defense secretary, these snowflake memos, all telling her to stay off his turf. The first time she got one of them, she thought, what do I do with this? Says Clark, who adds she was advised to ignore them. Every once in a while, one of these ranting Rumsfeld notes to Condi would come. You can almost hear the eye roll. Like, this dude Rumsfeld is drowning us in his little thoughts and his stupid memos. He sent 20 yesterday. I get 20 emails from someone. I'm like, dude, what the fuck? Send me one important one.
You have no charisma, man.
So then this
sorry,
guy-
bro. You have no charisma.
4-star general
Don't do
Wesley
that ever
Clark comes
again.
along, doesn't see the memo, hears about one memo, isn't privy to it because he's not allowed to see it, also isn't privy to the other 20 memos that day, isn't privy to the memos next week that might cancel out the strategy that was laid out. Do you have any evidence that this memo was actually important as opposed to one snowflake in a shifting strategy of 60,000?
Listen, fuckface. See, well, Dave's gonna engage us like naturally, I think, or honestly, or whatever the fuck. But I'd be like, "Are you fucking stupid?" It's called hindsight, you fuckface. If events play out a certain way, and something was like written about the events that played out eventually, wouldn't you look back and be like, "Huh, someone wrote this out like 10 years, 5 years, 5 minutes before it happened. Shouldn't we look into it? Like, can we investigate this?" Bring it to dumb guy logic, Dave. Just put your hands up, be like, "Hey, man, I don't fucking know. Who knows?" But, can we investigate it, though? I mean, just based on hindsight, we saw these events played out. We saw the wars we're in. We see all this stuff. Maybe there's no connection. Can we investigate it, though? Let's go ask questions. Now, granted, this guy would probably, the robot will probably say, like, "Well, sure, yeah, I'm all for investigation," knowing, like, it's not going to happen. So you have to deal with that, probably. But nothing wrong with being like, "Hey, I don't know what happened, but based on all the actions that I've seen play out here, foreign policy-wise, that's worthy of looking at." If you deny that, I assume you're part of the quote-unquote free press. And you're a 5-foot-tall half Puerto Rican. All right, here we go.
Well, I think, okay, so first of all, Wesley Clark has actually clarified a bunch of this more recently, but he did talk about how he had actually seen the plans originally a decade earlier in 1991.
That was
they
some separate Israeli study, he said, right? he didn't see this memo.
It was a little bit clunky the way he said it. He said it came from Paul Wolfowitz's desk, and that he had brought it to Brent Scowcroft, I think, who had said, let's look at that after. He said it was resurrected in an Israeli study later, and it wasn't exactly clear what he was referring to there.
Dave
but
trying to
again,
argue points.
We got a 4-star general, right?
This.
And he was not saying, like, because this was kind of weird when I remember Douglas Murray kind of taking a similar line with this when I had my conversation with him. But he wasn't saying
Douglas
like,
Murray?
oh,
What?
there's a memo, or there's just like something like what Wesley Clark is saying, and you're right, it is him saying what he heard from someone else. But he was saying, and a 4-star general felt comfortable enough to like say this on national television, that he went to the Defense Department and was told that the decision had been made, that we were not only going to Iraq. The way he tells the story is he came in, he found out they had decided they were going to invade Iraq. Then he comes back a couple months later, this is late 2001, and the guy goes, dude, it's so much worse than just Iraq. We're going to topple 7 countries in the next 5 years. Now, he said he goes to show him this, and Wesley Clark's like, I shouldn't really be looking at that document there, and this might be a crime for you to be showing this. But, okay, so what we have is a 4-star general saying he knew of these plans a decade later. The same group of people is now back in power after being kicked out, for the Clinton years. They're now back in power. He's saying the decision's been made that we're going to war with. Hold on one second.
How would he know?
Hold on one second.
He wasn't even allowed to see the memo.
Let me just finish the point, okay? And then you can respond to this. He's saying, you're right, he didn't see the memo. It's just a 4-star general saying that somebody at the Defense Department told him the decision's to be made. And then in the following years, we didn't overthrow 7 countries in 5 years, but we did overthrow a bunch of the ones on the list, or target a bunch of the ones on the list. And so, Coleman, my argument here isn't that, again, I'm not saying that memo came to life and exactly what was written down on that has happened. Of course, there were more memos. Of course, there were more decisions that were added in afterward. But isn't it kind of hard to, don't you find it to be a little bit of a coincidence that General Clark tells you the decision was made in 2001 that we were going to overthrow Gaddafi and Assad? Like, just think about that. That was a wild claim in 2001 to be made, and then we did just that. You don't find that? That doesn't make your eyebrows
Democracy Now!
Poke up a little bit? Like, that doesn't make you go like, oh,
I'll tell you why. So it doesn't
I'm
make
a
my
robot.
eyebrows raised for the following reasons.
Because
First
you're a
of
robot.
all, the people that actually saw the memo,
T100.
like Condoleezza Rice, would say, oh, okay, another fucking 20 memos from Dawn. Put that in the special filing cabinet for my memos from Dawn, which is the trash bin. There's no evidence that this was some grand strategy, right? And the only evidence you have is the general who never saw the memo. So then you actually look
You
at,
have hindsight,
is there
you
any set of
fuckface
facts that would
idiot.
persuade you that this wasn't
Doesn't
a plan?
matter.
Because we didn't, 3 of the countries out of 7, almost half the countries have not done regime change, let alone within 5 years, let alone in the specific order prescribed by the memo. And so, and not to mention, we did do regime change in countries not on the memo at all, like Liberia. So there's actually no variable from the memo that actually matches our foreign policy. And so my question to you is like, is there any possible set of facts of U.S. foreign
wasn't
policy
5
from the last 4
years.
years that would persuade you that this memo was not important?
Again,
This guy's
it's not
terrible.
the
He's a
memo
fucking
that you
boss.
keep saying. It's that Wesley Clark says the decision's been made that
How
we're
would
going
he
to
know?
topple.
How would he know? He didn't even read the memo.
He's saying that his source at the Defense Department, and again,
So
keep in
is it
mind,
your argument that no one at the DOD would ever exaggerate or lie? Because
No,
if
that's
that's what
not-
you're saying,
no,
then
it's
who
not.
are you
What
and what have you
kind of
done
ar-
with Dave Smith?
This guy, like, you tell there's a concerted effort here. It's not about, hey, man, I disagree with Dave. It's actually a concerted effort, meaning, like, if Dave told him, like, I have videotape right here, this guy would deny the videotape. But Dave refuses to, like, yo, show us that. Yo, Dave. If this guy's, like, there's certain situations when you ask certain questions that there's no way to make this make sense or make this work. Right? There's no way to turn this into, oh, it's kind of a gray area. But this guy's doing it no matter what. Regardless of if this guy's reading something or has an earpiece telling him answers on things. Either way, it doesn't matter. His answers are not human sounding. There's no care behind it, in my humble opinion. I don't care about his voice or his fake laugh or any of that shit, bro. I'm saying like the words he's saying lacks actual care for your answer, Dave. It will be dismissed no matter what. Thus, if I was Dave, I'd be like, this guy, you're a fucking fuckboy, aren't you? I'm not gonna say that. Well, I might say that, but I'm not saying Dave should say that. I'm saying treat it as such, in my humble opinion. Ask simple, no way around it questions. He starts dancing and doing backflips. You know the answer. This is the 100th time I fucking said this in this one video alone. But yet, I have to. I can't help it. I have to say it. All right, here we go. I might play the Wesley Clark clip and then leave it there. Move on.
Okay, well, certainly, Coleman, that's a blatant straw man and not at all what I'm saying. So, no, I'm not saying nobody would ever exaggerate. Sure, but I'm sure lots of people are exaggerating. The point is that the supreme leader of the NATO allies, okay, he's saying that his guy at the Defense Department said the decision's been made. My guess is that he's talking to people at the Defense Department who are in the know on this. And the point is, look, obviously, Coleman, the plan didn't go exactly according to plan. There's just no question about that. All of this is, this is late 2001 here. This is still over a year, almost a year and a half until we invade Iraq. They all believed the hype. They all thought it was going to be a cakewalk. And in fact, that's another interesting thing that John Mearsheimer covers a bit there, right? Is that essentially this was Sharon's initial beef with invading Iraq, he was like, whoa. Like he's like, hey, I want Saddam Hussein overthrown, but we got to overthrow the mullahs in Iran first.
He did not say he wanted Saddam Hussein. Where does he, what's your source on that? That Sharon said he wants.
It's the envoy of Sharon.
He warned Bush not to invade Iraq. Prime Minister Ariel Sharon warned Bush not to invade Iraq in February 2002, which is confirmed by the Israeli ambassador at the time,
confirmed by the movie called Vice, starring Christian Bale as Dick Cheney. Here we go.
Confirmed by Ehud Barak's former senior advisor. Confirmed by Lawrence Wilkerson, the then chief.
In fact, they made it like an actual line to say in the movie, which is kind of weird. But here we go.
Staff to Colin Powell. The Prime Minister of Israel told Bush, do not invade Iraq. It's not going to work. And anyway, Iraq is weak. Iran is the real threat.
Yes, right.
This is a massive, glaring hole in your story.
No, it's not at all.
The idea that Israel pushed us into Iraq. Go ahead.
Okay, if you let me finish the sentence, then it's not a glaring hole in my story at all. What got them on board, ultimately, the Israelis, were that they were persuaded that Iran was going to be next. And they thought, all of them thought Iraq was going to be a cakewalk. Now, Iraq turned out to be a catastrophe. And so, of course, the plan didn't go exactly according to plan. But again, you don't find it interesting. Like, honestly, just on a human level, you got a four-star general saying the decision's been made to overthrow the governments in Libya and Syria, and then we went and did it years later. You don't find that to be that's kind of interesting to me. Yeah.
No, because he never saw the guy who never saw the memo, heard about a memo, and no one else who's ever seen the memo has come out.
Forget the memo.
Yes, Dave, do it. Do it.
He was told the decision's been made, and we're doing this.
No, but how would he know? How would this guy know?
How would the guy at the Defense Department know? Because he's at the Defense Department.
But he's not the one making the decision.
Yes, but he didn't say he was the one making the decision. He said the decision's been made.
By who? By Bush?
Bush didn't imagine the top of the Defense Department. I don't know. Rumsfeld, Bush. I don't know.
Rumsfeld doesn't make the decision.
To get a lot more of this information, but we have what we have.
Okay, instead of trusting the four-star general that didn't even read the memo because he wasn't allowed to. Let's trust the people that were actually in the room. Condoleezza Rice, talking to Bush every single day of the entire administration, says that the decision was made to go into Iraq for sure on September 7th, 2002.
Dave,
if you have better information than that from other people that were in the room, I'd love to hear it. But in the absence of that, I'm not going to listen to a four-star general that never read the memo that he's talking about.
Okay, again, it's not the memo.
Dave, stop. Dave, you look at Dave's manner. You can see his mannerisms. He's like, "Oh, you're like that." This is not like a real discussion. You're full of shit, and you are here to. It's not even win for your own behalf. Maybe like Dave possibly does, but it's like you're trying to win for a org or a cause or some shit like that. It's not even about like being honest or real. You're not like I think Dave recognized debating with Alex Berenson. I might be fucking his name up. I think Dave realized like, oh, okay, he's just like a pissed off kid who's got his feelings hurt. Versus this guy where it's like, you're a hired gun. I can smell it a mile away. You were hired to do what you're doing right now. I think Dave knows that. And the answers he's getting, no matter what, once again, be anything. You know, I heard Israel, one of their golfers cheated at the PGA tournament over here. What does cheating mean, Dave? What does it actually mean, though? That's when you're like, oh, I got it. That's Dave's dumb guy logic test. Got it. I see where you're at. Here we go.
Made to go into Iraq for sure on September 7th, 2002.
Just can't help
If you have better information than that from other people that were in the room, I'd love to hear it. But in the absence of that, I'm not going to listen to a 4-star general that never read the memo that he's talking about.
Okay, again, it's not the memo. I don't know how many times to say this. We're kind of going in circles here. Oh, okay, yeah. You got a 4-star general telling you the plan has been made that we're going to go fight all of these wars, and
we
then
didn't even have a high enough
them.
Classification to read Pentagon memos. I'm supposed to listen to him over the national security advisor that was reading all of these memos and talking to Bush every day and talking to Rumsfeld and talking to Cohen.
Was also a member of the regime who was selling this war. So
Condoleezza Rice. No, she was not. She was not a neocon. She was not a Rumsfeld. She had a horrible relationship with Rumsfeld.
No, I said she was a member of the regime who was selling the war, and that's exactly.
Okay. I just want to see. Fuck. Mark, where's the one where I watch? Fuck my life. Go to his channel with the fake fucking face. He might be AI for all I know. Politics for the cost of American. Oh, okay. So he might be on the right, essentially. Understanding the black conservative vote. The woke rights conspiracy problem from Ben Shapiro. Okay, he might be on the quote-unquote right. Well, okay, never mind. All right. I was just like pretty curious if this guy was on the left, the quote unquote left, saying these things, but I guess not. I'm gonna play this, then the video's over, bro. Mostly Clark. Just for your own ears, because not on Dave brings it up every fucking day, apparently. Fucking clean break memo. Let's see. Here it is, 2007.
The Pentagon, right after 9/11, about 10 days after 9/11, I went.
I apologize, the volume's pretty low. I'm going to turn it up. Best I can do. Here we go.
The Pentagon, right after 9/11, about 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the joint staff who had used to work for me, and one of the generals called me in. He said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, He said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, this is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran. I said, is it classified? He said, yes, sir. I said, well, don't show it to me. And I saw him a year or so ago, and I said, you remember that? He said, sir, I didn't show you that memo. I didn't show it to you.
I'm sorry, what did you say his name was?
I'm not going to give you his name.
So go through the countries again.
Well, starting with Iraq, then Syria and Lebanon, then Libya, then Somalia and Sudan, and then back to Iran.
There you go. That's right. Big boobs, law crime. And yes, I've been watching random TV shows. Don't get mad at me, okay? Shut up. Not the Law stuff, but definitely the Pawn Stars and Forged in Fire. Kind of cool to me. You know what? Fuck off. No one asked you. Christ. All right. Either way, there's your video. Please subscribe if you feel like. Comment. Agree, disagree. Tell me what you think in the comment section. There's a lot here, but some people, you know, they watch. Hey, Silver. Some people watch when they're cooking or cleaning or some shit like that. Respect to you guys. Please comment if you feel like. Especially like, well, I have my beefs with Dave Smith. Pause. But like, I really think he can argue this a better way, in my humble opinion. But you guys tell me in the comment section. Do not forget to share, support, hopefully donate to all the links in the description box. Also, please check out the Discord. We're in there right now. Reacting to things. Some days movies or TV or whatever the fuck. I'm supposed to be like doing Halloween shit, but I just I get caught up in videos like this. Forgive me. But trust me, I'm around every so often. Also, please, the sources videos will definitely be in the description box, so please check that out for that as well. And with all that said, give this video a thumbs down.